Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was leader of Uzumaki clan council bashing. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Akai Gousto and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Location: Konohagakure no Sato. Date: approximately 2000 years after Juubi's defeat by Rakuto Sennin. Time: 10:10 p.m. During the Kyuubi defeat festival. A single woman. That's all that was walking towards the gates of the great hidden village of Konohagakure, yet the gate guard seemed nervous. While she didn't seem completely threatening, the sword on her waist said otherwise. It was a beautiful blade, but that didn't mean anything. Even something as beautiful as a flower could be as deadly as a poison. The woman on the other hand was someone to behold. She had long red hair that seemed to go to her waist, but that didn't seem to bother her as it was in a ponytail behind her head, even if it covered her ears. Her eyes were clearly visible, and they were a rich violet color that analyzed everything that she saw. The second her eyes landed on them, however, Izumo, one of the guards, silently activated a signal for backup from the Anbu division. If the woman in front of the two noticed, she didn't say anything as she just casually walked towards the two, as she was still a good 50 feet away. What the two gate guards didn't know, however, was that this woman was just a messenger of a larger group that was waiting a ways back. Well, the group did not mean harm towards Konoha. It wouldn't do well to scare a group that you were aiming to make peace with, or in this case talk to. A group the size of a clan itself wouldn't be a good first impression towards a village, especially a shinobi village. Though when the woman got closer, they noticed that she wasn't actually a woman, but more along the lines of someone academy age. She wasn't threatening, but she did make sure to be cautious. When she actually reached the gate, she stopped and waited for the two to speak, or it seemed like she was. Izumo was the first to speak as he asked, "State your business here." "I'm just a messenger, and I'm barely academy age, you know," she stated with a juvenile voice. "As to answer your question, I'm from a clan that wishes to join Konohagakure's ranks. I will have to be frank though, we have no actual clan head and I'm the closest to clan heir. We do not have clan elders either, which is unfortunately due to us having to leave our country many years ago and our eldest members dying before they could arrive here." The way she spoke, it showed that she was sad about the loss, as well as the fact that she had no one she could call on when it comes to the fact of politics. Though when you think about it, the way she worded everything, it showed that she was well versed in politics, as well as the hint of hope in her voice. The way she sounded, even if it was soft-spoken, showed that she wanted nothing more than peace and hope for her clan. With a frown on Izumo's face, he said, "You're going to have to talk to the Hokage about this. Is your clan situated enough at where they are so that you can talk to him without you having to worry about them?" The young clan head nodded her head while saying yes. "My clan is more than capable of handling themselves. I just worry for the children that have come with. They don't know how to fight yet, and as such I wish to keep them safe if nothing else." Before anything else could be said, an Anbu who had a dog-faced mask dropped down in front of them and said, "We can send some backup to watch your clan if you so wish." The girl's soft and worried look turned into a genuine soft smile as she bowed slightly to the Anbu and said, "Thank you, Anbu-san. My clan is my family and nothing is more important than family to my clan." The Anbu just nodded before he walked towards her and said, "I need you to come with me then. Hokage-sama will need to speak to you as soon as possible." The girl stepped back when the Anbu was about to carry her as she said, "I can travel on my own, but thank you, Anbu-san. Just lead the way and I will follow you to the best of my abilities. I am just a little girl after all, despite my high position." The way she said that to Inu surprised him. Well, it wasn't hostile, in fact it was the exact opposite of hostile. It did show that she didn't want to be looked down on just because she was younger and others. Inu decided to listen to her wishes as he turned around and motioned for the girl to follow him. With a small smile and a nod, she decided to do just that as she slowly pumped chakra into her feet so that she was able to keep up, much to the surprise of the Anbu. Well, he didn't expect the girl to fall behind, he didn't expect the girl to be able to keep up with him easily either. He would have contemplated this more if not for the fact that the girl let out a small shriek that had a small crash follow soon after. What had happened was that while she was paying attention, she wasn't paying attention to all of her surroundings. She took a single step on a roof and then the next thing she knew, she was covered in multicolored paint and she was falling straight towards the ground, right into a small crowd of people. She felt slightly dizzy after a while, but when she regained her composure she looked down towards her clothes, which used to be a pair of blue pants and a red jacket, were both now every color of the rainbow. She stared at her clothes and completely ignored the blonde boy who started yelling his apologies towards her, but he stopped. He heard her start laughing lightly. When he gave a confused look she said, "That was good. I didn't expect that at all. I honestly don't remember the last time my family was able to joke around and prank each other. You did a nice job, kid, though might I suggest something other and blaze orange. You're trying to be a ninja, so you shouldn't wear anything that screams throw something here, you know. The blonde boy actually froze at that for multiple reasons. The first being that the tone she used was neither sarcastic nor was it mean. It was soft, gentle, and amused even, but not a hint of being mad. The blonde boy was about to ask her something as well, but then a villager went up to the girl and pulled her away while saying, "Get away from her, you demon." Once the villager that grabbed her set her down, her looked at her and continued, "Are alright? Did the demon hurt you?" The girl gave a confused look at that before she asked, "What demon?" "I was talking to a boy that pulled an ingenious prank. He would do well as a trap specialist even, but then again he seems more of the type to go in head first." She trailed off in her thoughts, mumbling something that neither the blonde boy nor the villager could understand. That didn't last long, as she saw the villagers around look at the boy with hatred. The young clan head noticed this, and her eyes grew dark. When one of the villagers threw a rock at the boy, nothing could prepare anyone from what happened next. 1 second the rock was halfway from hitting the blonde boy, the next, the red-haired girl was in front of him, with her sword in front of her, and two halves of a rock hitting the wall behind them. The look in the girl's eyes almost dared the villagers to try anything, as her katana was pointed straight at them and seemed to gleam in an almost evil light. The sword itself wouldn't have been very interesting to most people, but for those who knew a great sword when they saw one, knew that the blade was a demonic blade. The sword's grip was covered in black bandages that seemed to be torn up, as was the pommel, but the pommel had a small chain on it that was connected to a small black dragon keychain. The guard or tsuba was in an open lotus shape and it was varying in colors, anywhere from a deep blue to blazing orange and back to blue again in a color wheel-like way. Then there was the blade. It bleeded purple on the cutting edge, even though the blade was colored the same way that the tsuba was, but that left nothing but confusion, as the blade still gleamed in an evil purple light. You civilians have no right to push around a small child training to be a shinobi to protect this village. I may be an ambassador at the moment, but if you give me one good reason to, I will cut you down without mercy." The young clan head stated with a soft tone that was like normal, but she openly challenged the crowd to do something. "We don't expect an outsider to understand why that demon brat is a menace to society." One of the villagers in the crowd yelled. "Be that as it may, I do not understand how you cannot tell the difference between a kunai and a scroll. Or perhaps to dumb it down for you civilians, a tenant and a keeper," she stated, causing many to freeze as she openly showed she knew exactly what this boy was, even if she didn't openly call him as such. "How can you protect the thing? He killed so many of our own." Another villager yelled. "Simple. I do not care what has happened in the past. The past is such, I would not blame you for trying to attack me today, nor would I hold a grudge against you for it tomorrow, but I cannot stand back and let you do something morally wrong in my eyes, as well as my clan's eyes, in the present. So I will state it one more time, back off, or that rock will not be the only thing in half tonight." She stated with a cold but still soft tone. Things most likely would have escalated even more if not for a certain voice saying, "What is going on here?" Everyone turned to the direction of the voice and were surprised to see the Nara head walking towards them with a raised eyebrow. Behind him was the Yamanaka clan head and the Akamichi clan head, all of which seemed concentrated on the current situation. Before the civilians could explain, the young clan head said, "These civilians were attacking this young boy for no reason as far as I could see. He played a prank on me, yes, but I do not see that nearly a problem as the current situation." The Nara clan head looked at the young girl in front of him with a neutral look, obviously noting that her tone of voice left little to question, as well as her choice of words. She was well versed in politics, and she seemed to not be afraid of any of these villagers either, so she must be strong for her age as well. With a look towards the other members of the Inoshikacho combo, he said, "Well, you can leave the boy with use. That or we can have an Anbu escort both of you two to the Hokage's office." The girl smacked her head at that before saying, "I was supposed to be heading to the Hokage's office before, but I fell after this boy here pranked me." With a sigh, Shikaku Nara gave a glare towards the civilian group, causing them to scatter, before he said, "As troublesome as it will be, I'll take you to the Hokage's office." "Troublesome," the girl muttered. "You're the head of the Nara clan, then are you not? Then by process of elimination that means the two behind you are the clan heads for the Yamanaka and Akamichi clans. Before you question me, I have wished for my clan to come here for a long time, and by gathering information of the clans of Konoha, I have ensured that I am not surprised by who I might meet." Shikaku gave an analytical look towards the girl before he sighed. "Troublesome girl. For an ambassador you're smart. Though from the sounds of it you're the clan head as well despite your age. Troublesome girl. If you ended up hurting any of the civilians you know what could have happened, right?" "Yes, I do," she responded with her normal kind voice, "but my clan's values involve family before honor, so I could not stand by and watch a fellow shinobi hopeful be attacked by civilians. I do hope they eventually learn the difference between a kunai and a scroll." The young clan head couldn't help but smile at the look that Shikaku gave her after she said that. His eyes narrowed even more than they did before, and it seemed the other two clan heads understood what she said as well, as they looked like they were getting ready to attack the girl. Things would have escalated again, if not for a loud voice yelling "Nii Cyan." The next thing anyone knew, the first red-headed girl was knocked into an alleyway, with a loud crash of a trash can following. When everyone looked and they saw two red-haired girls, with one of them being a girl that no one recognized. She had crimson eyes and red hair just like the first, but she seemed to be in a state between angry and worried. It seemed the worried emotions took over as she got off the other girl and yelled, "Don't ever do something like this again. I thought it would be like before all over again." The first girl sighed before she said, "Karin. I understand, okay. Just don't do that again, you could have been killed. There are 3 clan heads, and I bet several Anbu watching us, you know. But Nii-san. I was told to follow you so that you had someone familiar with you," the newly named Karin stated. The young clan head sighed deeply at this before she said, fine, can you tell me exactly how many Anbu are watching?" Karin nodded before she closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again she said, "About 20 Anbu are watching, though that doesn't make much sense, shouldn't there be at most 15 Anbu due to the masks? Maybe they are s." Karin didn't get to finish her sentence as the young clan head moved in front of her quickly and blocking several kunai that were sent towards the two. With a deep frown on her face, the young clan head asks, "What is the meaning of this? Well, I may have said some things that could get me in trouble, it did not warrant an attack on us." Almost right after she said that, 15 Anbu dropped around them, but it seemed they had no intention of harm to the two redeeds as one, the dog-masked one, said, "That wasn't any of us. Your friend may be right. We have some spies. This can wait later though. We need to get you to the Hokage before anything else can happen." Nodding, the clan head turned to Karin and said, "Grab a hold of the bull-masked one. I will be with Inu. No matter what you do, Karin, make sure Bull knows if there are anyone going to ambush him." "Tiny-san," was Karin's only response as Bull grabbed Karin and Inu grabbed the young clan head. Shikaku, being that he was the clan head to the Naras, decided to follow as well, since this would eventually affect his clan. With Inu and the young clan head, however, things were not going as well as they should. They were being followed, both knew it, but they didn't know where their followers were. With a frown on her face, the young clan head said, "If you can go faster, I suggest you do. I may not be as good as Karin with sensory, I can still feel chakra somewhat, and I feel the signatures closing in." Inu gave a grunt of acknowledgement before he disappeared in a puff of smoke, which meant that he used the shunshin to speed up his progress. Thankfully they reached the Hokage's office before their pursuers could catch them, but the young clan head was even more relieved when she saw Karin was with Bull. Karin seemed just as happy because she gave a hug to the clan head before the Anbu knocked on the Hokage's office door. When the voice inside said to enter, both of the young girls walked in, but it was the clan head who bowed first and said, "It is an honor to meet you, Hokage-sama." The Hokage gave an amused smirk as he said, "The pleasure is mine. Now who might you be? And what is it you want?" With a large smile on her face, the clan head said, "My name is Kira Uzumaki and I have a proposition for you, Hokage-sama. The whirlpool will always begin in the same place it ends, but never will it truly disappear." The silence in the room was deafening to everyone in the room. The Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, didn't know what to say. In front of him was a living member of the Uzumaki clan. She had the characteristic red hair, even the girl next to her had the red hair, which means that she wasn't the only one. The problem, however, was the fact that she seemed to have something to talk about something. If she was here, then where was the rest of the Uzumaki clan then? "What exactly do you mean, Mrs. Uzumaki?" Hiruzen asked the young clan head. "I may be young, but I am all that is left of the main family, thus I ended up as the clan head at my age. While I still am juvenile, I am well versed in politics to know you will want something in return for granting sanctuary to me and my clan." Kira stated with a kind tone, "I do not accept you to agree, but my terms would be medical and security aid to any in the village who needs it, as well as any military aid you believe that the village will need. In return, I ask that you have one Uzumaki on every genin team that will be in circulation in the year that I would graduate. I do not want to be an exception either, so I will join the academy so that I can know my generation." Hiruzen leaned forward at this as he asked, "So you wish to disrupt our normal 4-man teams, but in exchange, you believe we should have one of your clan members on each genin team in the circulation of your year. How about instead I choose which teams, including current circulation, for the Uzumaki to join? I believe the other conditions would be agreed to, but what about the Uzumaki Council position that will be made? I will not be biased towards any Uzumaki when the Chunin exams are ready, nor will I give a vote towards myself when I go to the exams as well, if that's what you mean. I have enough knowledge of political events to be on par with anyone in your council. I may not have as much experience, but I will not be denied a position from my clan to the council, even if I must prove to the other heads that I am a reasonable mind." Kira stated with a stubborn look. Hiruzen gave a chuckle before he said of course. But if you're gone, who would take your place until you returned? Kira gave a small nod at that before she said in that event I would have Karin here take my place. She may be my age as well, but she knows enough to placate those on the council. In the event that doesn't work either, I would assign Shoku Uzumaki as council member to take my place. Hiruzen looked at Karin for a second before he then began thinking about the benefits of having the Uzumaki. He knew that by security help they meant seals that would help keep the security of the village, as well as integrating any Uzumaki that would be genin at this point. So long as they could pass the academy test, then it shouldn't be a problem in his opinion. But that in mind Hiruzen said I believe the terms for our agreement are perfect, but I would like to ask one of your older Uzumaki members to teach a basic seals class in the academy. I believe that anything more advanced would be release of clan secrets, so only the basic such as a basic storage seal. Do you think these terms are agreeable? Kira gave a small bow as she said, of course Hokage-sama. I would also like to ask where we can set up our clan compound. We will not need workers, but we can buy the materials. And on another note, we may decide to sell our wares as well, which include different seals, which will be impossible to reverse engineer, and smith work, only armor however, as we noticed a smith shop in town. I do not want anyone whose livelihood is from hard work to go out of business. Noble and smart. She will fit along nicely with the clan heads, but the civilian council will be a problem Hiruzen thought before he said, that sounds reasonable. Now if you would please ha. His sentence was interrupted as a knock on the door was heard. With a sigh he told whoever it was to enter. Who entered however made both Karin and Kira to stiffen. In walked Danzo. For Kira, it was due to how he looked in general, as someone with that many bandages was either hiding something or he was seriously injured, but judging by the good use of his other eye, it was the former. As for Karin, it was because of how vile his chakra felt to her. She couldn't even describe how vile the feeling was to her. Danzo. What, might I ask, are you doing here? I am currently talking out terms for this young lady's clan to join our village. Hiruzen stated. That is why I am here. I believe we should not allow them to join unless they release all clan secrets to the village. How do we know that they are actually who they say they are? Danzo stated, and instead of the Hokage answering it was Kira. Now listen to me you mummy. My clan has been trying to arrive in the land of fire for years. We have lost countless clan members to multiple things, ranging from sickness to fighting. I will not be turned away from this village for the petty reason of giving clan secrets. Every clan has things that are rightfully only theirs. That added with the fact that even if we did hand over our seals, you would be unable to use them, as you have to have Uzumaki blood to use even the smallest seal that we keep for ourselves. We will not have some fool who treats everyone as a tool have our most prized seals and techniques. Kira stated with a frown on her face. You have no right to interfere child. Danzo stated with a low scowl. I believe I do have the right. I am Kira Uzumaki, the last of the main house, and as such, the clan head of the Uzumaki clan. I will not bow to the petty whims of a man who has more secrets than I have clan members. Kira stated not at all afraid of the man in front of her. Danzo looked straight at the girl in front of him before he turned around and started to walk towards the door. Before he left he said you do not want to have me as an enemy Uzumaki dono. He sneered at her. In response Kira stood completely straight and gave a tone of nobility that was far beyond her age, as well as a look that would make even a Hyuga look away. Once Danzo exited the room Kira bowed towards the Hokage and said I'm sorry for that Hokage-sama, but I could not let him speak to me about my clan, as if we were just a way to get the village military strength. We need this home as much as anyone would need a house, so I could not simply stand by. Instead of getting angry Hiruzen said that's quite alright actually. I never expected anyone to treat Danzo in such a way. You held your own, quite a feat for someone your age, as well as basically told Danzo to keep his opinions to himself, as well as not to bother trying to get your clan secrets. I completely agree with you in that sense. The way you told him off even showed that you knew what you were getting into, and you did it in a way that would not spark war between my village and your clan. Well don't I have to say. Kira smiled a little at that before she handed him the scroll that would bind the contract between the two. It was a blood contract as well, so as long as both parties held up to the agreements, neither would have problems, as blood contracts can kill if you disobey them. After the contract was signed, Hiruzen gave Kira a map for where she could set up shop so to speak. After everything was finished between the Hokage and Kira, she walked out of the office gleaming. As she was walking she had told Karin that she should rush back to tell the rest of the clan while she starts to put up tents at their new home. Karin agreed to it as well, but she did warn Kira to be careful. On the way to the clan compound she kept hearing something about the Uzumaki Brad. As far as she knew the only Uzumaki that were in this village, or had been so far, was her and Karin. There was also Kushina, but as far as she knew, Kushina died in the attack by the Kyuubi several years ago. As far as anyone knew, she didn't have a child, so who were they talking about? As she thought more, her thoughts kept going to that blonde kid she had ran into earlier. With determination, she went into an alleyway and created a bunch of shadow clones before having them go towards the new compound. Once that was out of the way, she started to walk around town looking for him. While she may not have been as good as Karin with sensing, she was good enough to feel out chakra of anyone Chunin level or more. That being said, there was a huge chakra source somewhere in what she could tell was a red light district. With a deep frown, as she was ignoring constant looks at her from both genders for different reasons. Instead, she walked into an apartment complex until she was right outside a door that she could feel the chakra coming from. With a small sigh, she lightly knocked on the door and waited. When nothing happened, she knocked on the door a little harder before she waited once again. When still nothing happened, she knocked as hard as she was willing to before she sat across from the door while hugging her legs. She didn't know if he was awake or not, but she did wait. Eventually she must have fell asleep because when she opened her eyes, she was instead on a bed with a bit of light coming from a window. With a loud yawn, she woke up and looked around. The room was small, but it was livable for one person. On the ground, however, was a bunch of ramen cups that looked to be used. In all, the apartment wasn't very large, but it wasn't extremely huge either. With another loud yawn, she looked around with a sleepy look and she ended up looking at the blonde boy from earlier with a tired glance. When she realized who was in front of her, however, she yelled, "It's you." That made the blonde jump as he turned around quickly while also throwing kunai at her. Instead of the kunai actually hitting her, however, she moved her head to the side slightly and the kunai dug themselves into the wall. Once everything calmed down, Kira said in her normal gentle tone, "I'm sorry for scaring you. I just didn't expect to see you so soon." It's alright, I guess. Sorry for throwing kunai at you. I just was startled," he stated while rubbing the back of his head. I forgot to give you my name yesterday. I'm Kira." Kira stated with a small bow after she stood up. The blonde gave a large grin at that as he yelled, "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I'm gonna be the Hokage someday, Databeo." Kira froze at that. With a small look towards him, she thought, Uzumaki. He's in Uzumaki. But then why does he have blonde? No, it's too obvious who his father is now, and from what the elders said before they were lost from sickness, Databane was the feminine way of what he said, and Kushina said it a lot. So that makes him Kushina's kid. With a large smile on her face, Kira said, "So Naruto. Your last name is Uzumaki." Naruto gave a small nod. "Well, I didn't say my last name, but it is Uzumaki. Did you know the Uzumaki were a clan?" Naruto froze in thought before he asked, "I have a clan?" Kira nodded at that as she said, "Yep. I'm the clan head. If you're Uzumaki though, that means that you are a part of my clan." "You mean I have some family?" Naruto asked with a quiet tone. Seeing that he was having trouble processing what was said, Kira walked up to him and gave him a huge yep. "I'm your cousin actually. I don't know why, but no one told you of your mother. I'm your mother's sister's daughter. Welcome to the family, Naruto Uzumaki." That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Those words made Naruto, for the first time, break down. Kira in response comforted him to the best of her ability as he seemed to let all his emotions loose. Kira didn't know what the villagers had put him through, but she knew for sure that she was going to get Naruto into the clan, whether the council here liked it or not. When Naruto finally calmed down, she sat in front of him as he was on the ground. "You're my cousin. Who was my mother then?" Naruto asked with a hint of confusion. "Her name was Kushina Uzumaki, from what the late clan elders had told me. She had quite a temper as well, or so I heard. It seems you caught her verbal tick though. She used to say Databane after most of her sentences." Kira stated with a small smile. "What happened to her?" Naruto asked even though he could guess. "She died during the Kyuubi attack many years ago. It may not matter now, but she cared deeply for anyone she considered family, so she cared for you more than you know. Uzumaki hold family above all after all. Now I'm sorry, but I need to leave. I have a meeting with the Shinobi Council today. If you want to visit the clan compound, I left a map with you to it," Kira stated as she stood up. Naruto in return gave a huge grin as he nodded. Once everything was settled between the two, however, Kira walked out the balcony door and she jumped off towards a building. Once she hit a roof, she started to speed across them towards the Hokage tower. When she arrived, however, it seemed that she was earlier, which was evident by the fact that Hiruzen was the only one in the meeting room. When he saw her, he said, "Good morning, Uzumaki-san. Was the land large enough for what you were hoping to do?" Kira bowed towards the Hokage before she said, "Good morning as well, Hokage-sama, and yes, it was large enough. We are settling with tents at the moment until we can buy the materials for our houses. Am I early for the meeting?" "Yes, you are. But that at the least allows me to have someone to talk to until the rest of the clan heads arrive," Hiruzen stated with a smile towards the Uzumaki clan head. "It must be boring to have to wait for hours. I can understand that, though I have to wonder. Why do you arrive early? Kira asked with genuine curiosity. It lets me have some peace before the meeting. Hiruzen stated, now please sit down. We can talk some more until the clan heads arrive. Mir did just as he had asked, but she also talked to him about many small things with the village. For example, how many clans there were in the village, how the shinobi system worked here, and different places to eat and relax around the village. Soon enough, however, they had to hold off on what was most likely the only peace they would get with this meeting, as clan heads filed in. From what Kira could remember, she saw an Inyazuka, an Akamichi, a Hyuga, and an Aburam for the obvious clan heads. The others she didn't recognize right away, thought she did recognize Shikaku from yesterday. Once everyone was seated, the Hokage cleared his throat to get everyone's attention. Welcome everyone. Now on to business. We have a new face on the council as we recently gained a new clan. Today's meeting is for relations between your clans and the new clan. Hiruzen stated before motioning towards Kira. While she may not look like it due to her age, she has plenty of skill in political matters. High decided to talk at this point. And what is that name of your clan? Uzumaki. She stated with a hard look despite her soft tone. My name is Kira Uzumaki, and I am the clan head for what remains of the Uzumaki clan of Uzushiogakure. Shikaku, who was leaning back in his chair, chose to ask, so you're what remains of the clan. How many people do you have? We have roughly 60 people. We have both seal experts, medical experts, smiths, and other specialists in various arts, including Kenjutsu. Kira answered. Why is it you here and not a clan elder? Shiba Aburam asked. I'm all that's left of the main family, and all of our elders died of multiple reasons on our way here trying to get to the land of fire. I may be young, but I know enough about politics to be able to understand any problems I might run into with your families. Kira stated with a soft yet unintimidated tone. So what would you be able to do for us and our clans? Sum asked with a bit of skepticism. For those of you not familiar with Uzumaki, we are skilled with anything involving seals. We can, and will if asked, set up seal barriers so that no one can enter unless it is through given permission by a clan member. One under Genjutsu will not be able to enter either, as to prevent anything getting leaked out from inside of the clan. Kira stated with a confident tone. Another one of the clan heads was going to ask another question, but before they could, the door opened and in came the civilian council. One of the council, a woman who had gray hair but didn't seem that old, came in and said, Hiruzen. You forgot to tell us of this meeting. Before any of the civilian council could sit down, Kira asked, what are civilians doing here? Well, I understand the fact that there is a civilian council, they have no business here as this is shinobi business. Clan business has nothing to do with a civilian, even if they are on a council. The whole room seemed shocked about what she had said, but the clan head seemed to understand where she was coming from, even if they didn't say it. Hiruzen sighed, however, even if he agreed, and said, Kira. The civilian council is what judges what needs to be done to better the lives of the civilian population. Kira nodded before she said, I understand that Hokage-sama, but the civilian side should have nothing to do with the shinobi side in the dealings between clans. I could very well have something I would offer, say, the Hyugas, that I don't want the civilians to know. She makes a valid point, Hokage-sama. She could offer the Naras something as well that we don't want the civilians to know. Shikaku stated. Before you civilians leave, however, I have something I wish to discuss with you. Kira stated. And that would be? One of the civilian council members ground out. I would like to adopt Naruto Uzumaki into the Uzumaki clan. She stated without a hint of hesitation. Preposterous. One of the civilian council yelled. You have no right to, another began, but was stopped as Kira's red hair started to flow behind her in a way that was familiar to anyone who knew Kushina. I have no right, Kira yelled as she stood up from her chair. I have every right. That child is part of my clan. He is my cousin, so I damn well have every right to adopt him into my clan. He is the living, breathing child of the only Uzumaki that lived here before the Kyuubi attack. I damn well have every right to take him from this village if I so wanted to, but I won't, because I want my clan to live in this village. If needed, me and every Uzumaki in the area we were given would go on a warpath to get this child to his clan. So if you still wish to keep him from his only family, go ahead. I dare you. The whole time while she was giving that speech, her chakra had condensed until what seemed like a demonic beast was behind her. The killing intent from her was enough to make some of the clan members go on alert even. The only reason that the civilian council was even standing was because it was a fraction of what she could use. Kira. Stand down. Hiruzen yelled, and she did just that, even if she still glared at the civilian council. Well, I won't say who is right and who is wrong in this case, she is right when it comes to Naruto. He is in Uzumaki, and as such, he belongs in the clan. You can move him tomorrow. Now we should get back to the meeting, don't you all agree? The whirlpool has the strength of thousands, but the stubbornness of many more. It took several hours for the meeting to end, but it seemed that every clan that was a part of the meeting was happy with the ending. All clans would be given a discount on any Uzumaki-made products, so long as they in return traded at an equal discount. The Yamanaka seemed especially interested in the seals that the Uzumaki used to keep plants healthy in their normal environment. That would help them breed plants that they couldn't before. The other clans seemed just as happy with the results, and it seemed even Hiashi was happy with the agreements, something that was hard to get from a Hyuga. Kira was a great negotiator as well as politician when it came to the different clans. With everything down, however, Kira took 2 steps out of the door before she felt herself get tackled by a familiar red-haired girl once again. Once Kira got up, Karin asked Nissan. "Are you alright? Who do I beat up?" Kira laced slightly at Karin's behavior before she said, "No one, Karin. I just scared the civilian council a bit. They wouldn't let me take what belongs to the clan." "What do you mean, Nissan?" Karin asked. "We have a new clan member. His name is Naruto Uzumaki," Kira stated in a happy tone. Karin seemed surprised by that, but then she turned her head a bit and pulled Kira back a bit. Kira was slightly confused, but once she saw the orange blob on the ground next to her she understood. Naruto was above them and he fell, almost landing on Kira. With an amused look she bent down and looked at Naruto. Once Naruto looked back she said, "You okay, Naruto-kun? That was a hard fall." Kira smiled a bit as Naruto started to explain, but then she noticed something that looked like dark blue hair. With a curious look Kira asked, "Hey Karin, could you bring Naruto to the clan compound? I have something I need to check." "Hi Nissan. Now come on Naruto. You're gonna love everybody," Karin stated before she started to walk away with Naruto. Kira on the other hand was walking towards the dark blue hair she saw before. When she arrived she looked around the corner to see Hinata Hyuga on the ground trying to hide, but she was failing. With a soft look Kira bent down and said, "Hello. Who might you be?" Hinata fell backwards when Kira asked the question. She honestly didn't expect anyone to find her, and now she was slightly scared as there was a red-headed girl in front of her. With a slightly scared voice Hinata asked, "Who are you?" "Me? I'm Kira Uzumaki. I'm Naruto's cousin," Kira stated in a tone that was soothing to her. "And Naruto-kun CC cousin?" Hinata asked, but and Naruto-kun doesn't have any family IT thought. "Well, I, along with the rest of the Uzumaki clan, just arrived yesterday. Though why do you call him kun? Do you like him?" Kira asked with an innocent tone. That innocent tone was enough to actually make Hinata give out a whining slung as her face turned red and she fainted. Staring right at the girl, Kira sighed and picked her up while also heading towards the Uzumaki clan compound. When they actually got there, a couple Uzumaki walked up to her and said, "Kira. We were hoping you would get here soon. We are getting close to finishing the clan compound's walls. We have most of the buildings and everything, but we still need to furnish the rooms." "That's good. Though I need somewhere to put this girl. She fainted in the middle of the street and I couldn't just leave her there," Kira stated with a sigh. "We have a room you can put her in. I would suggest staying with her though. Don't want her panicking after all," the other guy said. "Thanks hero, Shinji. I'll make sure to make it up to you," Kira stated with a happy smile. "No need. We're happy to help. Though if you still want to despite our protests you could tell us the name of a ramen shop in town," Hiro stated with a chuckle. Kira did just that. The second the words left her mouth, however, things got hectic. Both of the 2 Uzumaki that were in front of her rushed off, leaving a trail of smoke in their wake, but that just made Kira laugh instead of frown. She shook her head afterwards and brought Hinata into the room that was stated before and she waited for the Hyuga to wake up. When Hinata started to groan, Kira smiled at Hinata and said, "Morning sleeping beauty. You fainted so I brought you to the Uzumaki compound." "Why you did? Why?" Hinata asked, slightly suspicious, slightly curious. "I couldn't very well leave you in the middle of the street now, could I? You're Hyuga and from the looks of it a main house member, so if you got kidnapped things could go bad for the Hyuga," Kira stated. Hinata stayed silent for a few minutes before she said, "Thank you. I don't even know you except for your name, yet you helped me." "You didn't stutter that time," Kira stated with a small smile, which caused Hinata to blush slightly. Now back to a different question. "Do you like Naruto?" Hinata's blush returned, but this time she didn't faint. After a few silent minutes she said, "Hi. Then why don't you tell him? He's a nice kid. I'm sure he would take it well," Kira stated. "Then no. I see couldn't I'm." She didn't finish the sentence, but Kira understood. "You're too shy." Kira noticed the small flinch from the girl in front of her. "It's alright to be shy. And no matter what anyone says, being kind is not a bad thing. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'll be here, okay? I'll talk to you not as a clan head of the Uzumaki, but as a friend." "Thank you. I forgot to tell you my end name," Hinata stated. "It's alright. I knew it already as I've met your father, Hinata. Now you better head home. Your father must be worried." Kira stated while ruffling her hair a bit and in turn causing her to pout. Kira laughed at Hinata's expression, but she soon said goodbye to the girl as she started to walk around the clan compound with a small smile on her face. The whole place was looking nice and she could literally feel the power of the seals that were put on the houses. No one would ever be able to enter another Uzumaki's home without their permission or if they were great friends of the family. The fact that the seals were in place was enough reason to put a smile on her face, but when you add the fact of how the Uzumaki were acting when it comes to their new home, it brought the smile on her face out even more. The main reason being that every single Uzumaki was celebrating finding a place to live for once instead of having to be weary of everything. Every single family member was laughing and smiling for real while also playing or mock fighting. In the end it was enough to give a genuine smile to the last of the head Uzumaki family. The smile on her face was wiped away quickly, however when someone was thrown into her. When that happened one of the small children started to pale before she screamed Kira got hit. Run for your lives. The chaos that ensued would be called one thing to most people, but to an Uzumaki, it was a normal day. For Kira however it was her time to teach the younger generation not to piss of their elders. Needless to say, the building date for the houses was set back a couple of days due to a rampaging Kira. The next day when everything calmed down, it was the day that the Uzumaki joined the academy classes. She didn't know which class she was going to be, but she did know that she was going to be in the same class as at least 2 other Uzumaki. She hoped that Karin was a part of the group that was going to be in the same class, but you could never be sure. With one last sigh Kira walked towards the class that she was supposed to go to and was happy to see Karin was there along with another Uzumaki by the name of Shiro. When Shiro saw Kira he seemed to pale a bit, but when Kira just gave a gentle nod, he calmed down. Without waiting for the other 2 to say anything, Kira walked up to the door to the classroom and knocked on the door. They waited a few seconds until Lechunin, who had his hair in a high ponytail and a scar on his face, opened the door. He smiled at the sight of the children before he said, welcome to the class kids. I'm Iruka. I heard you're part of the new Uzumaki clan. Ought to say, ever since you guys came here Naruto has calmed down a bit. Kira gave a confused look as she asked, what do you mean by that? He used to be a rebellious kid who didn't listen to anyone. Ever since you guys came he's been happier I guess. He doesn't skip classes much and he seems genuinely happy. Iruka stated with a smile that actually seemed genuine. You must have been one of the better people with behavior towards him. Then as clan head of the Uzumaki clan, I must thank you for taking care of one of our own. Kira stated, causing Iruka to freeze. You're the clan head. But you're my student's age. Iruka stated with a confused look. Nii-san is the last of the main family, so she was put as clan head because of it. Karin stated. As she is really nice to everyone, Shiro stated with a nervous look. Iruka gave a nervous look as he was about to say something, but Kira told him to just treat her as a normal student. Kira honestly didn't like being treated like a clan head unless she was either in the clan compound or in a council meeting. Uzumakis really hated the whole honorifics things as it was an unnecessary thing, but they also understood that other places believed in it more than they did. That being said, Kira hated honorifics even more due to the fact that she was barely graduating age. She knew that she was going to get treated with respect due to her status, but she wanted to be sure that everything was going to go the way she wanted with getting to know the other students. We'll come in then and introduce yourselves to the class, Iruka stated with a bit of uncertainty. When the 3 clan members walked into the class everyone looked at the door. Right away Kira could see Hinata in the back and when they saw each other, they just stared at each other for a few seconds before she looked away nervously. Kira could also spot a couple of our clan members in the group, including one that she didn't remember seeing from the council. She honed in on the Uchiha and from the corner of her eye, she noticed Karin looking as well, but not with a nice look. It seemed Karin felt an uncomfortable type of chakra coming from him. After looking at him for a few seconds she moved on as she noticed a Nara clan member, an Akamichi clan member, and a Yamanaka clan member, all in the same class, along with an Inyazuka and an Abiram. It seemed that the clan heirs were all in the same class. Alright class. We have 3 new students from the new clan that arrived not too long ago. Can you introduce yourselves please? Iruka asked. Shiro was the first to walk forward as he said, I'm Shiro Uzumaki. It's nice to meet you. Karin was the next one as she eyed the whole class and said, I'm Karin Uzumaki. Kira was the last one as she walked forward and bowed slightly while saying, I'm Kira Uzumaki. I hope we can all get along. After they all introduced themselves the 3 Uzumaki spread themselves out. Shiro ended up sitting next to Shino, who just gave a nod in acknowledgement. Karin ended up next to Ino, who actually seemed a bit curious about her, so she started talking quickly to Karin. Kira, who was also the last one to sit down, had ended up sitting right next to Hinata, who in turn blushed as she remembered the talk from before. In honesty, that class day was mainly focused on the basics of everything, and when the Uzumaki members were asked to create a bushin, Kira said, "I'm sorry Iruka-sensei. We won't be able to create a standard bushin for you. Uzumakis have naturally high chakra reserves, so by the inverse law of chakra, which states the more chakra the less natural control over our chakra, we won't be able to perform a bushin. By Uzumaki standards we have genin levels, but by your standards we have low jounin reserves." Iruka actually seemed slightly surprised at that, but he said, "I need to make sure about this, you know. We have a chakra measuring machine. If you're willing to wait a bit we can measure that." "I'm sure we can wait. While we are at it though, why not have the whole class use it?" Kira asked with a slightly curious tone. "I can actually see the benefit of it, so why not? Mizuki, can you watch the class? I'll be right back with the machine," Iruka stated before he left, leaving the class to talk. Once Iruka got back, however, Kira said, "Karin, could you show everyone your chakra levels? I want mine to be a surprise." "Course Ni-san," Karin stated before she walked forward and grabbed the ball of the machine that Iruka told her to grab and sent some chakra into it. Once she sent her chakra into it, a loud ding sound was heard, and then a number popped up that showed 1023 on it. Kira commented that Karin's chakra levels had been raised before Shiro nervously walked forward and did the same. When he did so, the number that popped up was 1001. Shiro actually slumped a bit at the number, but Kira cheered him up by saying he had improved as well. Eventually the whole class went up, showing that Sasuke had 326 on his levels. Shino clan had 234, while at the same time Kiba had 210, Ino had 220, and Hinata had 302. Finally the last two clan members had 198 for Shikamaru and 154 for Choji. With a smile on Kira's face, however, she walked forward and touched the ball. She simply touched it and the lights showed up like crazy until the marker read 2540. Kira seemed slightly surprised before she commented that she had grown only a little. Some of the kids couldn't believe her chakra levels, but when Naruto touched it the machine smoked a bit and said 3076. The first one to voice their opinion on this was Sasuke, as he said, "There's no way the dope has more chakra than me." Kira frowned at him as she said, "While anything above 1000 is considered rare for a genin of an Uzumaki, I'm surprised by Naruto's chakra levels as well." With a small sigh, Kira then just walked back to her seat, to where Hinata poked her fingers together a bit before she quietly asked, were you telling the truth about your C chakra levels?" "Yes Hinata, I was. I stated before, it is rare for a genin of our clan to have more than 1000 on the scale," Kira answered. Then how do why you have so much?" she asked with a quiet question. "I can't tell you, to be honest. Though if you ever look in my direction with your Byakugan, things might be interesting for you," Kira stated with a hinting tone that left Hinata wondering what she meant. After school ended, Hinata followed Kira a bit before she activated her Byakugan, and she almost fell backwards with what she saw. There were two different chakras mixed within Kira's body. In honesty, Hinata knew that Naruto held the Kyuubi no Kitsune because she got curious as to why everyone disliked him. In the end, she was hinted in the same way that Kira did towards her, and she noticed a red chakra within Naruto. The chakra that was in Kira, however, was almost like a green color, but she didn't seem to be affected by it. With a small curious thought, Hinata decided to follow Kira a bit more, but then she noticed that Kira had disappeared. She was about to try and find her, but Kira found her first, as she appeared right behind Hinata once her Byakugan was deactivated. Hinata, Kira sang from behind her, which in turn caused her to fall to the ground once again in surprise. "Hey Kira-san," Hinata stated in a slightly shaken voice. Kira pouted a bit at the honorific as she said, "Hinata, I thought I asked you to drop the honorifics. Hinata, realizing that this was just to defuse any bad results, said, I'm sorry, I'm used to them. Yuk no t though see can I talk to you in private Kira-san?" "Sure Hinata. Follow me," Kira stated with a soft smile before she walked towards the clan compound. Once the two girls arrived at the clan compound, Kira had greeted many of the Uzumaki members before she brought Hinata into a small room. The room wasn't very large by any means, but it did have enough room to easily fit 20 people into it if you put them side by side. The style of the room was more towards a dojo than an actual room, though it did have the straw flooring that most traditional Japanese tea houses used. The room also had a spiral insignia on all of the walls that showed that it was the Uzumaki's house. Once both of the girls were situated, Kira asked, "Would you like some tea Hinata?" Hinata broke out of her thoughts towards the house when she was asked the question, but that didn't seem to affect her answer any, as she said, no thank you." Kira just nodded as she started to pour herself some tea. Once her had her cup, she asked, "Now. What did you need to talk to me about Hinata?" Hinata looked down slightly at the question before she quietly asked, "Are you a Jinchuriki like Naruto-kun?" "Now Hinata. Where did you hear that term?" Kira asked with genuine curiosity. As some of the C clan elders W were C calling and Naruto-kun that. I already have figured out W what he holds, so I thought that was the term Hinata stated while she pressed her two-pointer fingers together. Kira gave a soft smile at the fact that Hinata knew what Naruto held, but she still loved him like she most likely would have even if she didn't know. Setting her teacup down, Kira said, to answer your question, yes. I am a Jinchuriki. I am the Jinchuriki for the Sambi. Well, I don't remember his full title, I know he is a giant three-tailed turtle. Though I must ask, will you please not tell anyone? I don't have all of the beast, so I don't want the village panicking because the beast will be looking for the rest of it or whatever the civilian council will complain about. Hi. IP promise IW won't say. Though D does that mean you can know and Naruto-kun's pain? Hinata asked in a sad tone. I can't say I do, because my family treated me the same even after I got the turtle sealed inside of me. I hope you won't treat me any different either. Though I will want to help you bag Naruto. You two would be a cute couple. Kira stated with an amused smile. In response, Hinata's face heated up as she quickly excused herself and she rushed out of the building, trying her best to not run into anything or faint. The sight honestly amused the clan head, but she then sighed and started to meditate as she reached into her mindscape. Once she did, she saw a small island that held a cabin as well, and inside of the cabin was a young man who had yellow eyes and sharp teeth. He didn't seem to be doing particularly anything, but when Kira walked up to him he said, "Will I ever be whole again before you die, Kira-san? I promised you that I would, didn't I? I just don't want you to have the fate that is expected. We have heard bits and pieces of what the world would have looked like if we were not here, and I have to say, I will do everything to protect you. Just like my mother, who came from another world, protected me. I will help you, Isobu." Kira stated with a hard look in her gaze that showed she would do just what she said. The churning water near a boat can show if there is a whirlpool nearby, but beware, as the whirlpool is always dangerous. 14 years earlier, 2 months before Kyuubi attack on Konoha. A young woman with deep red hair is by herself on the path towards the land of fire. She looks closely like what Kira looks like, except she has a large scar that goes from above her left eyebrow to the right side of her chin. Despite the scar, she does not look ugly or marred by most people's standards. Instead, she is like an embodiment of strength despite her torn up war vest. On her hip is the same sword that Kira had in her possession, as it barely hangs by the loop she put it in. Despite the damage on her, however, she was barely harmed due to the lack of physical injuries. A few feet behind her is a caravan of roughly 70 people, ranging from the old to the young children. After a few more feet of walking, the woman stops and says, "I know you're there. State your name and village or I will be forced to treat you with extreme prejudice." Out of the bushes come close to 30 rogue Kiri shinobi, by the fact many decided to ignore orders and pursue the rest of Yuzu's legacy themselves. All of them were obviously only Chunin rank, but those odds were still formidable for one Jounin rank Izushiagaker nin. The Kiri nin, who was obviously the lead, gave a lecherous look before he said, "Well. Didn't expect to see the red demon. Could have sworn you died in the fall of your pathetic village." "Pathetic village, you say, yet how is it we managed to hold of the combined force of Iwa, Kumo and Kiri without backup for more than a month and all the while slaughtering thousands of your men?" The red demon asked with a completely neutral expression. One of the men behind the leader gave a growl before he was about to throw a kunai, but before he could his lead stopped him and said, "Baka. Don't you see she's baiting you?" Distraction, actually, a neutral voice stated before the head of leader, and several arms of the other nin fell off before anyone knew what had happened. The following fight couldn't even be called that as none of the Kiri nin managed to scratch or react in time before the red demon's blade connected to a vital area and killed them in an instant. The second the bloodbath ended, the demon used a seal that completely cleaned off any of the gore from the road so that the children didn't have to see it. Once that was finished, she walked back to the caravan and said, "We are being followed. If you encounter anyone, do not under any circumstances attack without me being there. I don't want to lose any of you. Not after what happened to Yuzu." One of the Chunin rank Uzumaki, who was named Kuna, smiled at that before she said, "Gotcha, Taichu." Kuna looked to be around the same age as the woman who was leading the caravan, and she had a deeper shade of red hair. Her eyes, on the other hand, were piercing red color that seemed to analyze anything they saw. Her skin was a deep sun-kissed color that suggested it was her natural tone, along with her hair being it what could only be in what is called dreadlocks. She usually wore a black Chunin vest that had a large Uzumaki spiral on the back. Along with the vest, she wore a mesh shirt underneath, as well as a pair of black pants and shinobi sandals. On the hip of her right leg was her weapons pouch along with the bandages. Finally, to complete her look, she wore her Uzushiagaker headband around her neck. The Taichu gave an amused look before she said, "Kuna, how many times have I said it? Just call me Shiba. Calling me Taichu just feels weird, especially when we grew up together." Hi, Taichou. Kuna stated with a teasing expression that actually caused Shiba to blush in embarrassment for a second. Alright, let's just get moving. We need to make sure these children have a place to sleep tonight after all. Shiba stated with a soft tone that was her trademark tone. Kuna gave a nod before she jumped back on top of the caravan wagon and Shiba started to lead the caravan again. After a few minutes of inactivity, both of the Jounin rank Yuzunin started to get paranoid. If they were being followed, then where was the rest of the enemy? It was either that they were hiding farther up getting red or that they hadn't reached them yet. Judging by Uzumaki luck when it comes to how big fights were, it was going to be latter instead of the former. Contacts. A voice from the back of the caravan yelled, confirming that it was in fact the latter. Thinking quickly, Shiba had the non-combatants form a barrier seal before the fighters, which consisted of 3 genin, 7 chunin, and 2 jounin, rushed to the back and encountered a troop of at least 100 nin that was mixed in consistency of Kiri, Iwa, and Kumo. With a deeper from Shiba yelled, watch each other's backs and don't do anything stupid. We all go on together or we all fall together. For the pride of Yuzu. The rest of the nin cheered as well before they started to fight with a multitude of jutsu types. The fire users were teaming up with a few wind users, but the deadliest team had to be Shiba and Kuna, as Kuna was a lightning type and Shiba was a water type. Shiba first performed a water dragon jutsu that she reverse engineered from Kiri, while Kuna used a laser circus that she reverse engineered from a Kumonin to electrocharge the water, which in turn electrocuted anyone who was in the way of the jutsu. The 3 genin on the other hand were just as scary, as they had an earth type, fire type and wind type, which in turn helped them cover both bases of defense and offense. In the end, it took a while for them to clear out the shinobi that attacked them, but it helped that they had 2 nin that were considered S rank due to both their individual power, but when teamed up they were considered SS rank, which was near impossible to get by themselves. When everything calmed down, the 2 S rank shinobi had the rest watch the perimeter as they searched around for anyone that was still hiding. It helped that both of them could feel chakra to a certain extent, even if someone hid it. Once they confirmed that they were alone, they regained their old positions and continued the caravan along. It took them all day to find a spot for them to rest, but everyone was thankful that it was a cave instead of the open ground. After placing barrier seals around the cave entrance and other parts of the cave, everyone relaxed slightly. With Shiba and Kuna, however, they were on full alert. They're getting bigger, Shai-chan. Kuna stated with a glum look. I know. If we didn't have so many attacks, I'm sure we would have reached the land of fire by now. As it is, however, they seem to make us go in the opposite direction than we wanted. I don't know how there are so many missing nin, but we need to press forward. If it wasn't for that, then my husband Shiba left the sentence hang. Look, Shiba. I'm sorry for what happened to Jinbei, but you need to get over it for the good of the rest of the clan. It may seem heartless, but until we get a good place to live, we are stuck here. Just look at Shiki and Tenzo. They had lived in Kusa until we brought them with them, and they have a child on the way. Kuna stated with a sad tone. Kuna, you don't get it. I'm pregnant. Shiba stated with a hard look which caught Kuna off guard before she continued, I'm due in a couple of weeks. The only reason I look like I do is because of seals that are protecting both the baby and my body. Kurenai, who was caught off guard by the news, quietly asked, why didn't you tell me? Because you would have stopped me from fighting. She stated, simply causing Kuna to flinch, I will fight for my friends and family, Kuna. That's why I didn't tell you. I need to make sure someone is around for them when the time comes as well. That said, when the baby comes, would you be willing to be their godmother? Hey, are you sure? Kuna asked and Shiba nodded. I'll be honored to be, but what about Kushina? She's in Konoha, right? She's the aunt, remember? Besides, don't you remember what I told you before? I was hoping to save her, but with the stupid Kiri, Kumo, and Iwanin still coming after us, that won't happen. Shiba stated with a frown. I'm sorry. Kurenai said with sympathy, though at least you managed to do some good. You warned the higher-ups what was going to happen with the war, and we did more damage than before. That and at the least 200 Uzumaki are now spread throughout the elemental nations. Yeah. I did do some good at least. Though now that I think about it, if I did change anything from before the start of this whole shitstorm, then I wouldn't know what could happen. She stated with a sigh. The thing with Shiba is that she is from another world that knows what is going to happen up to a certain point in this world. She had been through this very incarnation, and thus she was lucky enough to be the sister of Kushina Uzumaki. After everything that has happened though, she has debated whether or not it really was worth it to interfere. When she thinks about it now though, she will without any hesitation say that she is glad she screwed up what had to be history, with Karin Uzumaki and Naruto Uzumaki being the last Uzumaki besides Nagato. That said, she is also the mother of Kira Uzumaki, and Uzumaki that shouldn't be born yet is. Saving some more Uzumaki than before shouldn't do much, I would think. Didn't you say something about there being countless faces that didn't have names with this world? Kuna asked with a raised eyebrow. Yeah, I did, didn't I? Well, in all, I'm glad I can call you my sister in all but blood. Though next on the agenda. I sense a massive chakra source in the lake near this cave. You willing to have us stay here until my child is born? Shiba asked with a curious look. I don't see why not. We should place illusion seals as well as other seals to hid ourselves better from any sensory types. Kuna stated with a slight grin. Shiba gave a grin right back as she stood up. The two then explained to the rest of the Uzumaki what was going on so they could settle in. The earth types were the first to suggest creating an underground network for the whole clan to eat, sleep, and practice in. Shiba gave a thumbs up to that idea while the non-combatants worked on the seals for protecting the place. The only thing that she wanted to make for sure there was a nursery. When she was questioned about it, she explained with an embarrassed expression her situation. She was scolded by the whole clan at that point for fighting despite her condition, but the rest of them agreed that a nursery would help for the ones who were pregnant anyway. Kuna at this point also said that she was in the same boat as Shiba. In the end, no one complained as both of the Jounin had wanted to protect the rest of the clan before themselves. Once everything had been set up, however, both Shiba and Kuna had kicked the training part of their mind into overdrive on the Genin and Chunin. Both of the women had become slave drivers during the weeks that everyone was in the cave, but no one complained as it was to help them get stronger. On the day that both of the Jounin conceived their children, the Chunin and Genin had prepared to seal the yang part of the Sanbi into Shiba's young daughter with the name of Kira Uzumaki. Kuna's child, however, was named Shiro. Finally, however, the third and final child to be born that day was from Shiki and Tenzo, who named their child Karin. Every parent agreed that the beast's yang chakra along with its consciousness would be sealed into the child, while the consciousness of a wild beast would be put into the rest of the chakra that would also be destroyed once the beast was sealed into the statue the Akatsuki wanted them put in. The sealing process went along smoothly and without a hitch as far as everyone was concerned, but that didn't stop the uneasiness that Shiba felt. While she couldn't sense anyone near them, even with the turtle's chakra blocking out about 2 feet of area, she couldn't get the feeling out of her system. It was almost like there was going to be something bad happening soon. When she thought about it, they had been in the cave for roughly a month, and now that she thought about it, the Kyuubi was going to be released soon. With a deep sigh, she told everyone that they needed to get their things, but mark the map of the spot so that they could always come back if need be. When things finished with the sealing, Shiba had right away grabbed Kira and held her as she looked towards the rest of the clan that was with her. She didn't know whether or not they would treat Kira any differently, but she was determined to find out. She first looked towards the older generation as they were the least willing to change, and she asked, "Do I have your word along with the rest of the Uzumaki that are here that you will not treat her any differently?" The older generation looked appalled at the accusation as one said, "Of course you do. Uzumaki know how seals work, you know. We won't treat her any different than a normal child, of course she's a clan heir though." Shiba sighed in response as she said, "I understand that, but it's just with the way Jinchuriki are treated throughout the elemental nations, it never hurts to ask. I just don't want my child to end up like most Jinchuriki. Gone insane due to the lack of support from their peers," Kuna stated while holding her little Shiro. "Exactly. I want things to go differently for Kira than what the rest of the Jinchuriki have to deal with," Shiba stated with a sad look towards the child in her arms. Kuna walked up towards Shiba with a smile as she said, "You can trust us. If not, then me. The whole family has your back." Shiba gave a small smile as she then told everyone that they were going to need to leave as soon as possible. Once everyone was back on the road, things started to actually calm down. The attacks by shinobi had become all but non-existent, but that didn't mean they could relax. Well, they didn't have to worry about shinobi, they did have to worry about bandits, so over the 7 years that had followed, Shiba had told her daughter everything she knew about this world, including her previous origins, as well as teaching her daughter Iedo with a sword and any jutsu that she thought her daughter should know, including secret jutsu that Kiri owned. The only problem now was the fact that her daughter had started talking to the Sanbi. "But mama, Iso-sen is nice. He hasn't tried to get me to come to his cage at all, and instead he talks to me," an almost 8-year-old stated. "I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to Isobu, but you need to be careful, sweetie. You don't know how he could react to you trying to befriend him," Shiba lectured, which caused Kira to groan. "I know, mama. I won't try to let him out until I'm like 11. Yeah, 11 years old, so that I can beat him up if he tries anything," Kira stated in a childish voice that was still soft like her mother's. "Whatever you say, sweetie. How about you go play with Shiro and Karin? Mama needs to talk to Auntie Kuna for a minute about ninja stuff, okay?" Shiba asked with a soft smile. "Okay, mama," Kira stated before she rushed off towards Shiro and Karin, both of which were playing a card game where it seemed Karin was getting more and more pissed off due to a losing streak. Kuna laughed a bit as Karin finally screamed in anger before she kicked the deck of cards, only to fall backwards and land on her back. The scene amused both parents, but Kuna asked, "So what is it you needed Auntie Kuna for?" "I'm going to be heading out by myself for a while. 7 to 8 years at most," Shiba stated with a hard tone. "So it's finally time, huh? I'll take care of the rugrats, no need to worry there. With Karen's parents gone though things might be harder. You don't need to worry. Your little brat will be just fine. Kuna said with a small smirk. I'm sorry to just drop a bomb like that on you, but I'm worried. I need to sort things out you know. I promise you I'll be back Shiba said with a smirk towards Kuna. Don't make promises you can't keep Shai-chan. Kunai teased. I don't. Was Shiba's simple response before she walked over to the kids. Once she walked over she saw that Karin was apparently even more pissed, while Shiro seemed confused as to why. When Karin called, it became obvious they were playing poker, even though their chips were crackers. Shiro slumped a bit when he saw Karen's 3 pair of aces, while Kira had a full house with kings and queens. Shiro said something about how he had bad luck right before he laid down a royal flush of spades. Karin froze at that before her right eye started to twitch. After a few seconds she exploded as she yelled I can't believe this. 3rd time in a row. Hey, wasn't I the one who got the royal flush last time? Kira asked with an innocent tone. Ni-san. Don't you dare bring that up. Karin yelled right back. Shiba chose that point to chuckle as she said, as amusing as this is I need to talk to my daughter for a few minutes, then you can get back to your game, okay? Hi Shai-san both children stated before Kira walked over to her mother. You needed to talk to me about what mama? Kira asked with a curious tone. I don't know how to be soft about this, so I'll say it right out. I'm leaving. Shiba said with a sad tone. Kira obviously didn't like this as she yelled what why. Sighing at her daughter's behavior, Shiba said I need to do something, okay sweetie? I promise you I'll be back and I'll bring you lots of souvenirs. In the meantime, I want you to become a very successful kunoichi, okay? Depending on how high up you are by the time I come back I might even give you something extra special when I get back. Also I'm going to have you be the acting clan head of the Uzumaki okay sweetie? You can keep the position until I get back and I hope you do everything you can to protect your clan. I will mama. The clan is family and family always comes first. Kira recited with a joyous look. Right you are sweetie. Now before I go I want you to have my katana. Use him well and treat him nicely. I won't ask for him back when I come back, but I will want to see him. Remember what I told you about swords? Shiba asked with a soft tone. All swords, katanas even more so, have a soul and a personality. If you treat them well, they will in return treat you well, Kira stated with a smile as she held her mother's katana she was famous for. Right sweetie? Now I need to leave. You do whatever you want, but make sure that you treat everyone with the respect they deserve and the kindness they need. Shiba stated before she stood up and ruffled her daughter's hair. Kira gave a sad salute to her mother as she cried, and her mother gave it right back before she disappeared. Kira put the sword onto her belt loop for her sword and she fastened it there before she looked at where her mother was one last time. But the strengthened resolve Kira started to order everyone around so that they knew they were going towards the land of fire so that they would arrive at the same time the Uzumaki arrived at Konoha all those years later. They say deeds are quick to anger, but that is not always true, after all they're angry, maybe for the protection of their loved ones. 6 months after Uzumaki arrive in Konoha. Kira, Shiro, and Karin were all walking towards the academy with Naruto nowhere to be seen. They didn't know where he was, but they didn't worry about him in honesty. In the 6 months that the Uzumaki had arrived they had taught a man different things, including the Uzukai Taijutsu style, which consisted of quick and agile spiral-like motions that was like flowing with the wind. The Hyuga in many cases had accused the Uzumaki of copying the Juken stance, but it was honestly the other way around. The Uzumaki had been around a lot longer than the Hyuga in a clan environment and the Uzukai was the base for Juken. Of course the Hyuga didn't believe it and they continued to think that they were superior compared to the low-born fools known as the Uzumaki. Of course the only Hyuga that the 3 Uzumaki knew that wasn't like that was Hinata and she seemed to actually struggle with the Juken in a way that seemed like she was doing something that her body didn't want. When Kira saw that she almost right away decided to talk to Hinata about it. As she asked Hinata questions about the Juken that were not invasive about the actual style of fighting, she found out that the Juken actually wasn't natural or correct for Hinata. After a few more questions Kira told Hinata to channel some chakra into a piece of paper that she had with her. When Hinata did, it became unsurprising when the paper ripped in half. It's just like I was thinking. Hinata the Juken is based for an earth style isn't it? Kira asked nicely to Hinata. Hi. B but what D does T that have T to do W with T that paper? Hinata asked. You're a wind affinity. The Juken is hard for you because it is more for an earth type. Do you get what I'm saying? Kira explained her with a soft tone. B but if I don't I'll learn the J Juken T then Hinata started, but Kira interrupted her. Don't worry about expectations. If you worry about them you'll never grow. It may take a while, but I think you should make a new fighting style by incorporating agility and speed instead of solid blows and strong stances. Kira said with a smile. Hinata took it to heart, and not even 2 months later, Hinata had started to use the new style of the juken that she had created. It was obviously still a work in progress, but it was also obvious that it was by far better for her than the other style. In honor of the Uzumaki who helped her, even Hinata called it the Uzuken, spiral fist, not to be mistaken for Uzukai. The styles were similar as well, but not the same. The biggest difference was that the Uzuken focused on quick movements and speed, while it still did use spiraling movements to dodge or get behind the enemy. The Uzukai on the other hand was completely spiral movements that also mixed in solid hits, speed, and a couple of other factors that were hard to see. The first time Hinata used the in-progress version of the Uzuken, it was against Kiba in Yuzuka. After first, Kiba, as always, boasted about how he had gotten better and that he was going to win. That was quickly shut down when Hinata spiraled to the right out of the way of the punch Kiba sent, and she hit the 3 major tenketsu on his back, temporarily paralyzing him. The whole schoolyard was silent at the fight that didn't even last 4 seconds, as Iruka slowly stated that Hinata had won in an unbelieving tone. After that, Kira had confronted her about the fighting style, and Hinata told her. "IW watched you and the other Uzumaki fight, and it seems smooth. I incorporated things I saw you do into it. I'm sorry if I shouldn't have," Hinata stated in an apologetic tone. No, it's fine really. It's just I didn't expect that. It's a good idea, but you should incorporate more of the juken into it so that you can still have quick and solid strikes with your quick movements," Kira stated with a smile, which Hinata returned slightly. In honesty, Hinata was a lot better than she was thinking she was, but that didn't help that she was lacking in self-confidence. With Kira's help though, she did help Hinata enough that she didn't care about what the elders of her clan thought about her. What surprised Kira though was the fact that her mother had picked her up at one point from school. While Kira didn't express it, she knew her own mother had something to do with it. In honesty, it was a good thing, as Hanabi, who had joined her mother, acted nicer to Hinata than what was normal in the original timeline. With a soft but sad smile, Kira walked away from the area after saying goodbye to Hinata. Heading back to the present, however, today was the day of graduation. Kira had noticed multiple times that one of the teachers was sabotaging Naruto's tests, and she was determined to stop the teacher this time. After teaching Naruto how to get out of illusion, she told him to be careful today. The only problem now though was the fact that Naruto was nowhere to be seen. But the deep from on her face, Kira walked into the school, and the second she did, she, along with the other 2 Uzumaki who were accompanying her, had been grabbed by their ankles before they were pelted with paintballs. By the time they were done, all 3 of the Uzumaki were hanging upside down, colored bright blue, pink, and green respectively. Naruto, Kira said in a sing-song voice that promised pain when she got him. After a couple of minutes and a change of clothes, Kira, Karin, and Shiro had all walked in with a beaten-up Naruto tied up behind them. When Iruka saw that, he sweat dropped and asked what did he do this time. "Painted me green, Kira pink, and Shiro blue. He deserved it this time," Karin stated with an angry tone. Iruka laughed nervously at that. It was a known fact that you don't mess with an Uzumaki, especially a female Uzumaki, unless you want pain. That said, Iruka nervously said, "Jay, just take your seat so we can begin the tests." Kira sighed at his tone, but did nothing else as the other 2 walked to their seats, and she did so as well. She didn't know what the test was going to be about, but she did know that she was going to do. She was going to make sure that no matter what, Naruto passed. As far as she was concerned, it didn't matter if she passed, but it did if Naruto passed. "Alright. The first test is a written test. Once you are finished, come outside so we can perform the taijutsu part of the test," Iruka stated as he started to pass out the written test. Once all the tests were passed out, Kira noticed Naruto flare his chakra just enough that he wouldn't be noticed by anyone but the Uzumaki, but also enough that he dispelled a genjutsu that was on his test paper. He must have not known that there was a genjutsu on his paper, but Kira had told him to perform the release in case there was one. In honesty thought, the test was really easy for anyone who remotely paid attention to the class. It was really easy for the rest of class, to the point that Shiro, the resident Uzumaki tactics genius who could give Nara a run for their money, had finished almost a minute after the test had begun. Karin quickly followed as the 3rd person to finish right behind Sakura Haruno. The test dragged on to the point that the last one to finish of the group that would eventually become the Rookie 12 due to the addition of Uzumakis was Shikamaru, but that was only because he didn't want to work that hard. Once everyone had finished with that part of the test, it was time for the next part. When everyone was finally out, Iruka said, "Alright. Next is the taijutsu part. First up, Uzumaki Karin vs Uzumaki Shiro." Karin, who heard Shiro's name, groaned and said, "I have to fight Shiro." "Great, does this test decide if we pass or fail, Iruka-sensei?" Iruka, who was confused as to why she was asking, said, "No it doesn't, why?" "Because I'm going to lose," Karin said simply as she walked towards the fighting circle while pushing her glasses up. Shiro nervously walked up as well, before they boy looked towards each other and bowed. Once Iruka started the match, Karin rushed forward as she tried to attack him quickly. Shiro then, by what the others saw, barely dodged before he moved in a circle and hit her in the back with both elbows. Karin stumbled forward a few feet, but she tumbled and spun on her back to face Shiro again. With a frown on both of their faces, Karin carefully walked forward again, but Shiro rushed this time, and even before she moved, he ducked under her fist and hit her 3 times in the stomach with palm strikes. While she was trying to recover, he moved forward once again and hit her in the chest with a palm strike, which in turn knocked her over. Shiro then finally jumped onto her stomach and put a fist a few inches from her head. The whole fight ended in a little more than 20 seconds, but it left everyone, aside from Kira, speechless. Iruka, who was the first of the teachers to recover, said that's enough. Shiro, why don't you show this much effort in normal classes? Shiro, who had just gotten off of Karin, reverted back to his shy self as he said B because I know she can handle it. I don't like fighting allies. Iruka left it at that as he said alright, you two can go. Next is Uchiha Sasuke when he said that a majority of the girls yelled about Sasuke-kun beating everyone, but Iruka just grumbled before he continued vs Uzumaki Kira. Kira walked up to the gym fighting circle, ignoring all of the insults from the girls in the crowd, just as Sasuke walked to the other side. With a smile how Kira said let's do our best. Sasuke simply glared at her as he said, just shut up and get ready to lose. When he said that Karin, who was in the crowd, said he really shouldn't have said that. Kira's whole demeanor shifted when he said that. Within a second her soft and gentle personality turned into a cold, hard, and rigid warrior's demeanor. Without saying anything she got into her Uzukai stance and made the bring it motion with her right hand. Sasuke took the bait from that as he ran forward with a lot of speed and sent a punch towards her head. In response she spiraled to the right before doing the splits to dodge an overhead kick. She then fell backwards and spun like a top on her hands and kicking Sasuke 2 times, thus sending him flying. Once she stood up she had to move her head to right as Sasuke sent another punch to her head, but she couldn't react fast enough to the second punch, which hit her in the stomach. Once she slid back a couple of feet, she noticed the condescending smirk that he had that showed he thought he was above her. With a scowl this time she simply walked forward before she literally fell backwards avoiding a punch, but right before she hit the ground, she kicked off with her feet in just the right way that she was spinning almost like a Gatsuka, fang over fang. But instead of cutting her fist plowed right into Sasuke's stomach in a not so gentle way. The blow didn't completely put him out of the fight, but it was enough to hinder him as she ran at him and sent a flying kick into his head, while off in the distance a shout of youth could be heard. Enough. Iruka yelled at the two when Sasuke fell to the ground from the kick that was a bit much don't you think? Kira gave a blank look towards Iruka as she walked away without saying anything. She continued to stay neutral towards everything, despite the insults that were hurled her way by the rest of the girls in the class. Eventually she turned back into her normal self, but that was after Karin and Shiro calmed her down enough. Hinata was the second most surprised by the behavior that she was shown, with Naruto being the first. It really was shocking to see at first that her friend becoming cold like that, but then she realized that Sasuke was looking down on Kira and by extension, all Kunoichi. Hinata didn't voice it, but she agreed with what Kira did. Anyway, next is Hyuga Hinata vs Uzumaki Naruto. Iruka stated. The result of the fight was honestly a tie as Hinata kept outmaneuvering Naruto, but she refused to do so much more than tap him at times. Naruto on the other hand could only get glancing blows on Hinata, but that was about it. After a while of nothing happening, Iruka called the match a tie. It honestly showed that Naruto had gotten a lot better than before, but he still had a ways to go before he was a proficient at the Uzukai as the rest of the clan was. After that match was done it went on to the rest of the class, with the highlights being the fight between Shikamaru and Choji, who both gave half-hearted attacks towards each other, and Ino vs Sakura, where this Sakura was more serious about her career, and she beat Ino down with a direct punch to Ino's skull. Though after that, before anything else could happen a voice yelled incoming. A few seconds later a red blur crashed into the ground right in the middle of the fighting area. From in the smoke a loud, but familiar voice, said Wyu. Thought I would hit a couple of genin for a second there. Once the smoke cleared the area produced a small crater in the center of the sparring circle. In the circle whoever was a very familiar person, who Shiro paled at as he slowly asked Mom. Gunya Uzumaki looked around for a couple of seconds before she spotted the group of 4 Uzumaki. With a large grin on her face she said Kira. Karin. Shiro. It's been a while hasn't it? With a sweat drop and a nervous smile Kira said Kunya you interrupted our exams. Gunya blinked a couple of times as if she just noticed the 2 surprised Chunin instructors, as well as all the genin hopefuls around her. With a couple of seconds in thought, she laughed loudly as she said ahahaha. I'm sorry about that. Iruka realizing what she wanted said Iruka. I'm Iruka and this is Mizuki. We're Chunin instructors for the kids. Nice to meet ya. Kuna stated with a nice guy pose that was familiar to anyone who had met Guy, which also caused another shout of youth to be heard as is kinda obvious, I'm Shiro's mother. We can talk about his school progress later though. Right now I need to get to the Hokage's office. I kinda got off course. Oh and Kira. I was told to tell you the red, the mist, and the turtle will meet at the wave anyway. See ya. It wasn't as obvious to the rest of his students, but when Kuna said that, Kira knew exactly what it meant. It roughly meant that her mother was waiting in Nami no Kuni for her, along with whatever team she gets sent on. That honestly gave more of a resolve for her goals, as she now knew where her mother was, and she was bound and determined to talk to her mother again, along with getting her mother to come home with her. Even if she didn't belong here, it didn't mean anything. She was going to do whatever she needed to get to Nami no Kuni. Anyway, getting away from our current interruption, we now need to go over the jutsu part of the test. Iruka said, getting everyone's attention. The test will be on the Bushin Jutsu. Kira, at this point, started to curse herself out. She had forgotten about the Bushin part of the test. All three of the other Uzumaki knew the Kage Bushin, but Naruto didn't. That meant he was going to fail, and wait. This could end up as a good thing. For one, it could help bring Hinata and Naruto closer, as well as having Naruto understand that having a beast inside of you didn't mean that you were evil. I mean, looking at herself, Kira understood that she wasn't a demon just because she was a Jinchuriki. With a small sigh, Kira told the other two about her plan, and they almost immediately agreed. They both knew about the fact that her mother knew about things in the future, and they agreed that Naruto and Hinata would look good together. Sure, they didn't like the fact that Naruto wouldn't pass, but they understood why they had to leave him be. As it was not only because of the fact that if he didn't, then he wouldn't find out about the Kyuubi, and he wouldn't find out the truth about Mizuki. Once the actual tests were done, all three of the Uzumaki tried to comfort Naruto, but he wouldn't have it, as he said that they were just like everyone else. That actually pushed Kira over the edge as she slapped Naruto and said, "You think you're the only one who feels like they aren't wanted? Think again. Maybe you'll find that someone cares for you more than you think." Naruto shrunk under her glare, but it didn't last long as she turned and left without even looking back. When Naruto looked at Karin, she glared at him as well, before she ran off as well after Kira. Shiro was all that was left, and he said, "Why, you've got a good C compared to T there, see childhood. I'll talk to you later." And Naruto just stared as the Shiro ran after the two female Uzumaki, and he was left to think over what had just occurred. With an even deeper sad look, he walked away and ended up right in front of Mizuki. The bait was set. The dangers of a whirlpool are not nearly as bad as the actual storm that will follow. With Kira, she was inside fuming. They had done a lot for Naruto, and he had the gall to say that they were like everyone else. She was going to give him the silent treatment for a while, but at the moment she had something more important to do. Right in front of her was Hinata, and it was later in the day, so it was already close to the time that Naruto stole the scroll. "Hinata!" Kira yelled as she ran up to her and started to breath a bit, as she had been running throughout the whole village, looking for he girl. "Hinata, thank Kami I found you before you got home." "Kira-san. Why did you look for me?" Hinata asked in a soft tone that, despite her work on stopping her stutter, showed she was still shy. "I wanted to ask you if you wanted to go somewhere with me. You know, to celebrate graduating and everything," Kira said with a small smile. Sure, but how will I inform my parents?" Hinata asked with a slight tilt of her head. "I sent a clone to your mother earlier asking for permission. It was a shadow clone, so I got back my clone's memories as well. She said it was fine, so long as I kept you safe," Kira stated while running the back of her head in embarrassment. "Okay. Sure," Hinata said with a soft smile. "Though what are shadow clones exactly?" Kira, who actually got excited at the concept of telling someone something, said shadow clones are a solid clone, instead of illusion, that not only thinks for itself, but gives you memory feedback as well. If you had the chakra reserves we Uzumaki have, you would be able to train with them even. Though if you raise your chakra levels high enough you could also use them. Why would it take your level of reserves to use them? Hinata asked while they were walking. The jutsu is labeled a kinjutsu because it splits your chakra evenly between clones. Any chakra left over from the clone, however, is sent back to you upon release, so that's why I could create hundreds, well you could only create one at the moment," Kira stated in a lecturer's tone. The two girls continued to talk between each other at this point, but their conversation stopped as a blur of orange with something on its back ran by them. Not long after, another blur ran past them in the same direction. With a fake confused look Kira asked, "Was that Naruto-kun?" Hinata finished in the loudest tone Kira had ever heard the girl use. "Something's wrong. Why would Naruto be carrying something the size of an archive scroll?" Kira asked with a confused tone. Not caring either way, both of the girls decided to follow Naruto as he went into a clearing. When Hinata tried to go out and ask him what he was doing, Kira stopped her and said, "This isn't like Naruto, stealing something. He didn't pass the test today. Either Iruka or Mizuki set him up to do this. Think of this as a mission, need to find out who did it before anything. Oh okay, Kira-san. I don't like it, but okay. Hinata stated with a small frown. After Naruto read and learned the cage Bushin, Iruka eventually showed up and he asked what he was doing. Hey Iruka-sensei. I just finished the secret test. Does this mean I pass? Naruto asked with a grin. What are you, look out? Iruka yelled before he pushed Naruto out of the way. Before whatever it was could hit Iruka, however Kira chose this time to appear as she cut the giant shuriken in half just as Mizuki appeared. Kira didn't even flinch as he pulled out another and said, what's this? A brat protecting a demon? Kira ignored him as she pointed her sword at him and turned her head enough that she could see Iruka, Naruto, and Hinata behind her. With a frown towards Mizuki she said, Iruka-sensei. Hinata. Take care of Naruto. I can deal with Mizuki. I'm not a clan head for nothing, you know. Instead of listening to her, they went into the bushes so that they could watch her. She knew that they were watching her as well, but she didn't say anything as her attention was turned back towards Mizuki. So you're the little clan head I've been hearing about. You don't seem too tough and you're not even a genin. Mizuki stated. Then let me prove you wrong. Kira yelled as she called on some of Isobu's chakra, though not enough to form a chakra clock. The foulness of the chakra seemed to affect Mizuki enough, however, as he yelled, you're just like the demon brat. Yes. I am. Kira stated, so what if I have a demon inside of me? Whether it be 3 or 9, it doesn't matter. You will not harm Naruto. In a flash Kira had charged straight at Mizuki and it was only due to the difference in experience that it managed to dodge the sword that was headed straight for him, though he was still nicked in the side of the head, causing his leaf headband to be cut off his head. In response to the attack, however, Mizuki managed a solid kick to Kira's head, causing Kira to be sent flying back slightly. She recovered fairly quickly though when she flipped in midair and bounced off a tree, going faster than before towards Mizuki. He managed to dodge the attack once again, but he couldn't dodge the kick that she sent to his stomach afterwards, which in turn caused him to be sent through a couple of trees. Isobu, you know if that was real or not? Kira asked the demon turtle in her head. That was real, alright. If this guy thinks tailed beasts are just mindless animals, I will enjoy watching him get beaten by Yukai-san, Isobu responded. A short conversation was broken quickly, however, when Kira felt someone hit into her back and she quickly used the replacement technique to get away. When she saw the hundreds of shuriken that were embedded into the log, she was glad she dodged it. That many would surely kill her. Those particular thoughts ran through her head, but she moved quickly as she felt Mizuki almost hit her again. I'm out so I can kill you, you demon brat. Mizuki yelled as he randomly threw kunai and other shinobi tools into the bushes. Mizuki continuously threw the shinobi tools throughout the forest, that is until a blur of red, followed by a female voice yelling dynamic entry. Flew into Mizuki and in turn sent him flying straight into a tree. Standing in his place was a cut up and bruised Kira as she had to do man things to dodge all of the flying weapons that were sent towards her. Mizuki, who had just gotten up, noticed this and he grinned wickedly as he took a couple of steps only for Naruto to jump in front of her as she fell to the ground, showing that a few kunya did hit her in her arms and legs. Aw, isn't that cute? One demon protecting another. Naruto, do you want to know why the villagers hate you? Mizuki asked as he ignored Iruka, who had also been hit by the random throws of weaponry. It's because you are the Kyuubi no Kitsune. I don't care. Naruto yelled as he took the information in stride due to Kira's little show before about how it didn't matter, I won't let you harm my friends and family anymore. Mizuki sneered once more as he asked, oh. And how are you going to protect them, you demon? You harm them and I'll pay you back 1,000-fold. Naruto stated as he went through some hand signs and finished with the rat symbol Kage Bushin no Jutsu. With a lot of smoke appearing, literally 1,000 Narutos appeared around Mizuki in the forest. It was enough to cause Hinata to faint, but it was also enough to cause Mizuki to panic as the 1,000 Narutos ran at Mizuki and beat the living shit out of him. Once all of the clones were dispersed, Naruto ran up to Hinata to see if she was injured and it in return woke her up. When she saw Naruto so close to her, she almost fainted again, but it was thanks to Kira's self-confidence boost that she managed to not faint. Hinata. Are you okay? Naruto asked with a slightly worried, slightly sad tone. Why yes. Why you so sad? She asked as well. You know you're going to treat me like everyone else, aren't you? Naruto asked in a tone that showed he was convinced she was. And no. Oh, of course not. TT2, BBH honest. IK knew about it already. IIG got curious with my Byakugan 0 once and saw the T2CH chakras, Hinata admitted with a downcast look. Why you knew and you don't care? Naruto asked and Hinata nodded. The two just sat there for a few minutes, neither saying anything until a voice yelled, just kiss already. That got them both to move. Hinata moved away quickly with a red face, and Naruto moved away just his face, with a slight blush to his face, but he was glaring as well at Kira. He growled slightly as he yelled, "Don't say stuff like that, Kira." Kira simply stuck her tongue out and gave the peace sign, while also saying, "What can I say? I'm trying to help out a friend." That caught Naruto's attention as he asked, "What do you mean helping who out?" Kira just gave the last pose again while saying, "Sorry, not for me to say." The group of three eventually went their separate ways, while also having Kira bring Hinata home. In honesty, Kira did not want to be going to the Hyuga compound, as she was telling the truth about sending a shadow clone to Hinata's mother, but she did not want to deal with both of the Hyuga heiresses' parents and the Juken strikes that were sure to come from this. Hyugas were not known for their leniency when it comes to things outside of their clan compound, so she was expecting to have the Hyuga clan head stare at her with a large glare. To her utter displeasure, she was not disappointed as the second she walked into the head house with Hinata, she had several sets of eyes glaring at her, but surprisingly none belonged to Hiashi Hyuga or his wife. Instead they belonged to the clan elders. Hinata went into her room at this point so that she could be well rested while Kira talked with the Hyuga elders and head. "Uzumaki-san. You're late. Am I to assume something happened?" Hiashi asked while keeping his stoic posture. "Yes, Hyuga-sama. I am sorry that I am late bringing her home, but I wanted to help Hinata with something as well. You see, I am helping her with her training when I can," Kira stated with a bow. What could an outsider do for this failure? One of the elders stated in a none too pleased tone, but Hiashi quieted him quickly enough. "I would like to know how you could help Hinata with her training as well," Hiashi stated. "You see, by accident, one day I discovered that your Juken style was, to be put into layman terms, unnatural for your daughter. After discovering this, I asked her to use some chakra paper to see what her natural affinity was. To say what I found was unsurprising is an understatement," Kira stated with respectful tone as she sat in front of the Hyugas in a traditional seating position. "Do tell what you found, Uzumaki-san," Hiashi stated with his normal stoic tone. "Your daughter has an affinity for the wind element, Hyuga-sama. I am to understand that the Juken is based more for an earth elemental. This is why your daughter has such a hard time during your training," Kira stated in a respectful tone. "The Hyuga with a wind element is preposterous. If this is true, then she is no Hyuga," one of the elders said, completely ignoring Hiashi's glare. "If that be the case, then, the Uzumaki would gladly make room in our halls for Hinata. If that is the case, that you would so blatantly banish an heiress just because of a petty thing as element affinity, then as current clan head of the Uzumaki, I would take Hinata into our halls with or without the permission of the Hyuga household," Kira stated with an equally intense stare. Hiashi, instead of glaring at Kira, sent her a barely noticeable thank you look before it turned back into the stoic face as he said, "I believe that is enough. Now, if you could explain how it is your help falls into place with this." "Of course, Hyuga-sama," Kira stated with a small nod of her head. "Now, as most Uzumaki have an affinity for either wind or water, we have the Uzukai, which goes well with our firing style, and it can easily adapt for the other elements as well." That said, what Hinata did was she took some of the katas from the Uzukai and started to create her own style of the Juken. As far as I knew, she didn't want to take full credit of the style, so she named it the Uzuken in honor of our Uzukai being the base for it. Spiraling fist, Hiashi said in a wondering tone, "Am I to assume that the new style she is creating is more suited for quick strikes as well as other aspects that suit the wind element?" Kira nodded as she continued, "Yes. The spiral moments are incorporated into your Juken style, from what I can see, as well as not relying on the stance for the strikes as much. From what I can see of what she had made, it is better for her in every sense than the Juken." Hiashi gave a nod before he asked, "May I perhaps request you to perform a mock battle against my daughter tomorrow to show how much she has improved with this Uzuken?" "I would be more than happy to, Hyuga-sama. Just know this, I will not force Hinata to teach anyone else anything she creates. As the creator, she has every right to teach only those she thinks deserve it," Kira stated with a pointed look towards the Hyuga elders that didn't go unnoticed by Hiashi, who gave an amused smirk on the inside. "That is understandable. Only the master can choose their students," Hiashi stated before he stood up. "That will be all for tonight, Uzumaki-san. We will continue this conversation at a later date. For now, I believe you should get some rest. Graduation is tomorrow after all." Kira nodded at that, as well as standing up and exiting the building, completely ignoring the glares from the Hyuga elders behind her. Before she could leave the compound, however, another person intercepted her. She didn't recognize him right away, or at all for that matter, as she had heard a description of very few Hyuga, and as far as she knew, he wasn't one. "Do you need something from me?" Kira asked in a polite tone, even if she was unhappy about still being awake at this time of night. "Who exactly are you, and what is your purpose with Hinata?" the Hyuga boy asked with a hard gaze. My purpose, as you put it, is to help her. I am the last of the head family in my generation, yes, but that does not mean that someone else isn't alive, you know. I just want to help her as a friend, not as a clan head, to an heir, or whatever the case. Kira stated with a dignified posture. The Hyuga didn't answer at first, but when he did he said, stay away from Hinata. No good ever comes from outsiders interfering with our clan. Kira raised an eyebrow at that, but she just gave a soft smile towards the boy and she said, I hope to meet you again, Hyuga-san. Who knows, maybe we will. The boy seemed confused at first, but it disappeared as Kira walked away from him and out of the clan compound. She didn't know then, but what she had said had sparked interest in the Hyuga boy. It was not a certain kind of interest, but it was an interest nonetheless as he stared at her until she disappeared from his view. Kira, on the other hand, knew that he was staring at her, but she didn't know why. It could have been a multitude of reasons, but she didn't really bother trying to confront him about it, as it would just waste her time, in the sense that she really needed to sleep soon, or she wasn't going to get any sleep for tomorrow. At the thought of sleep, however, it became apparent of her particularly disheveled appearance, with her clothes ripped up and full of dirt, as well as her hair and skin being matted with dirt. With an annoyed sigh, she decided to take a shower before she went to sleep, and it seemed that the turtle in her head had something to say as well. When she finished with her shower and she laid down on her bed, instead of going to sleep, she went into her mindscape and went up to the turtle again. This time he was in his tailed beast form in the water around the island. When she arrived, he appeared in the water and Kira, who had an extremely annoyed look, asked, what is it you needed, you giant pain in my ass? Isobu, who had gotten used to Kira when she is tired, said, the mist your friend was talking about. Does that mean Uzumaki, the demon of the hidden mist? Kira rubbed one of her eyes as she responded with, that's all you needed. Yes. It means Zabuza will be on the mission. My mother told me Team 7 will go on to the wave. What if you're not one Team 7? Isobu asked. I was going to ask the Hokage if we could have a joint mission between my team and Team 7 so that we can get practice for the future of being teamed up with another team. Kira said in a rather pissed tone now. I guess that's it. Isobu said while also trying his best not to anger the Uzumaki girl anymore. Good night. You giant ass. Kira yelled before she disappeared so that she could actually sleep. Do not fear the beast in the water, but the water around it. It may very well be the last thing you see. The next day was going a lot better for Kira in honesty. She apologized to Isobu's the next morning about her behavior and he in return just told her that he was used to it. Kira actually blushed in slight embarrassment at the fact that he pointed out that she was extremely angry when she was tired. In return for him not telling anyone about it, he was let out of her in a miniature form while he also sat on her right shoulder. The Uzumaki she passed, though, often greeted both of them by name, as Isobu's had been accepted by the Uzumaki for a while now as it was. The villagers, on the other hand, were slightly confused by the red-eyed turtle that looked at them from the Uzumaki clan head's shoulder. In honesty though, Isobu was just curious about the different types of people that were around. He even asked Kira some questions, out loud, which caused the people who passed by her to stare even more, as it wasn't every day that a summon, and their few, was seen by civilians. When they got to the academy, however, the stares dropped in frequency and both the turtle and the Uzumaki walked into their class with little to no problem. Force Isobu introduced himself to Hinata when she asked who he was and that caused Hinata to both jump in surprise and stutter out a greeting as well. Kira greeted Hinata as well, but she did ignore the fighting that was going on behind her with Naruto and Sasuke. When she saw Naruto about to be pushed into Sasuke, however, she appeared next to the two in a flash and held her hand between their faces. Once Naruto backed up, she removed her hand, which in turn caused her to glare at Sasuke. Don't think I did that for you, duck hair. I did it for Naruto. She stated with a glare. Sasuke's only response was to give a HN towards her. Not long after that Iruka came in and said, alright, today you are all genin. You will also get a Jounin sensei on a 3-man team. Now as per Hokage-sama's orders there will be 3 teams that will a 4th member, that will be one of the 3 Uzumakis that are not Naruto. Team 7 will include Naruto Uzumaki, Haruno Sakura, Sasuke Uchiha, and Shiro Uzumaki. Shiro eyed Sasuke nervously while the other 2 member is the team were either in a depressed state, Naruto, or extremely happy, Sakura. Either way things for Team 7 were not going to be good for the future, considering they had a shy person as well. Team 8 will consist of Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburam, Kiba Inuzuka, and Kira Uzumaki. Team 9 is still in circulation, so Team 10 will be Ino Yamanaka, Choji Akamichi, Shikamaru Nara, and Karin Uzumaki. We will now break for lunch while we wait for your Jounin senseis to arrive. Iruka finished with a small smile towards his students. Kira really didn't worry about Naruto for the rest of the time that she was at the academy, but she did take into account everything else, like things with Hinata and her team. She decided to get herself acquainted with Kiba and Shino, as she didn't know either one very well, except for what she had seen in class involving the two, and that did nothing to give Kira any incentive on how to treat them. Kiba was a loud moth from what she could tell, and he was an Inuzuka, so he had a temper to go with that mouth, though Uzumaki weren't much better. As for Shino, yeah, she has nothing when it comes to him. He is silent and logical, so he really doesn't give much for her to work with. Eventually Kira had found Hinata, and she called out, "Hinata. There you are." Hinata looked towards Kira as she ran towards her, and she said, "Oh, Kira-san. Is there something you needed from me?" "Honestly? No. I just wanted to know if you knew anything about our other two teammates. I don't really know them that well, with them being new to me and all," Kira stated while rubbing the back of her head a bit. "Well, all I know about them is that Kiba-san is like Naruto-kun when it comes to energy, and Shino-san is the opposite. I'm sorry, I don't know much more," Hinata stated with an apologetic look. "No, it's fine, Hina," Kira stated with her nickname for Hinata. "I guess that just means we are going to have to get acquainted with our teammates and our Jounin sensei, though she's going to have to get used to no honorifics with me." Kira finished her sentence with a smirk, and Hinata giggled at the fact that their sensei was going to have a hard time with her. If there was one thing that everyone in the village knew by this point, it was that the Uzumaki did not use honorifics. Unless they were trying to either be nice toward someone, mainly clan heads, or it was still an after effect of talking to a high-up person, such as the Hokage. Despite all this, though, the Uzumaki were never rude toward someone they believed deserved their respect. If an Uzumaki respected or trusted you, it was more than likely they were going to give you a nickname of some sort, such as Naruto calling the third Hokage Jiji-san. Either way, it was not going to be a fun time for whoever their sensei was when it comes to trying to get Kira to call her sensei. "You got me there, Hina. Now, you think we should get back to the class and see if we can find our teammates?" Kira asked with a small smile. Hinata gave a nod towards Kira as they both headed back towards the class. They ended up not finding their other teammates until it was time for the teams to get to their Jounin sensei. It just so happened that before Kira could even say a word towards any of her team, a voice said, "Teammate." Said team looked towards the door to see a woman with red eyes and black hair. Kira thought she looked pretty for someone who was supposed to be a Jounin, but then she remembered her own mother and knocked that thought out of her head. Even if her mom had a scare on her face, she still considered her mother to be pretty. That said, the whole team followed their Jounin sensei out into a park. When she asked everyone to sit down, even one did so, but Kira sat in a tree at this point. "Well. You four are interesting. My name is Kurenai and I'll be your Jounin sensei. Why don't we introduce ourselves first though? Could you start, Uzumaki?" Kurenai asked Kira, as it was obvious she was in Uzumaki due to her red hair. "Mama. Can't you introduce yourself first, Kurenai?" Kira asked with a tilt of her head. "I guess. My name is Kurenai. I like a lot of things and dislike a lot of things as well. I'd rather not tell you my hobbies, and my dream for the future is a secret," Kurenai stated with a smile, causing the four genin to sweat drop. "I guess I'll go next then. My name is Kira Uzumaki. I like the Uzumaki clan, ramen, and my friends. I dislike anyone who treated my friends and family harshly and the times it takes to get ramen. My hobbies include talking to my family and friends, as well as my little friend here." She pauses as she scratches Isobu behind his head and Fuinjutsu practice. "My dream for the future, I guess, is to protect everyone I care about as well as be the strongest kunoichi the world has ever seen." "That's a nice dream actually. Kunoichi don't often get enough credit." "Okay dog boy, your turn," Kurenai stated. "Yeah, I'm going to skip Kiba and Shino as I don't know much about either one of them besides their personality, sorry to those expecting more." Kurenai nodded towards the boys before she turned to Hinata and said, "Finally you. My name is Hinata Hyuga. I like practicing my fighting style and hanging out with my friends. I dislike people who pick on my friends. My hobbies include taking care of my clan's garden. My dream for the future is to be a strong kunoichi," Hinata stated, though her face did get a bit red, so it showed that she was thinking of something else. "Well, it's nice to meet all of you, but tomorrow we are going to start some survival training. Now before you protest, let me explain. This is to determine whether or not you'll be allowed to perform genin duties," Kurenai explained. "But what about the academy exam?" Kiba yelled. "That was to weed out the hopeless causes. The only thing though, I'm your opponent for the training," Kurenai stated. "And one. Kurenai is our Jounin sensei, why would they pin genin against a Jounin when a Chunin would have been better for testing our abilities?" Kira thought with a frown. "Tomorrow I want you all to arrive at training ground 6 at 7 in the morning. Oh, and don't eat breakfast, you'll just throw it up if you do," Kurenai stated with a smile before she disappeared via Shunshin. "And 2. Wake up earlier than normal and don't eat breakfast. Okay, I think I get the test, Kira thought with a sigh, as her mother never did tell her about what the after the exam test. Hey guys. Before you go, can I ask you something? Kira asked. I don't see a problem with that. Why? Because we still have time before we must head home. Shino stated in a monotone voice. Okay, don't you guys find it a bit odd that they are having us 4 newly minted genin go against a jounin that has a lot more experience, even if we have 4 clan children in one squad? Kira asked. When you say that, it doesn't make sense. Hinata stated, wouldn't a chunin be enough to test us? What does that have to do with anything? Kiba asked with a confused look. Hinata makes a valid point. Kiba. Why? Because a chunin would be more than enough to test 4 new genin, which means there is something else about this test. Why? Because sensei also said that we should wake up earlier and skip breakfast, an essential meal. Shino stated. Kira gave a nod before she said he has a point. I guess the only thing now is to determine what the test is meant for. Until then, how about we meet up before sensei should show up so we can discuss how we should take this and a way to handle Kurenai since she is a jounin. Hinata nodded at that, well the 2 boys agreed and they went their own ways. Hinata had walked home with Kira this time. The 2 girls didn't even notice that they were being followed and Kira started to joke around with Hinata as well. The person who was following them couldn't hear the words, but it was obvious that what Kira was saying was making the Hyuga heirs flustered. The 2 seemed like really good friends and that made the figure who was following them smile and whisper, I'll see you soon Kai. The next day when everyone did arrive early, it turned out they had also eaten breakfast, which to Kira was a good thing. Once they all arrived she sat in her tree again and said alright, I got some info on our jounin sensei. She's a genjutsu specialist, so be careful when it comes to what you see. Won't know if it's real or not. Kiba gave a nod at that before he yelled, then we just need to take her down hard and fast. Hinata shook her head at that as she said, Kiba-san, that won't necessarily work. Just because Kurenai senpai is a specialist in genjutsu doesn't mean her other skills will lack. Hinata is right. Why? Because a jounin is not someone to underestimate. Shino stated. Okay, I actually have a good plan. Kira stated before she started to explain the plan to everyone. It took a bit for the plan to be explained, but once it did they all agreed that it would work, even if Kiba was a bit more excited about it than the rest of the team. When Kurenai finally arrived she had a small smile on her face and she said alright. Your objective is getting these. As she said that she held up 3 bells, you have until noon to get one, but if you don't then you're going to be tied up and I'm going to eat my lunch in front of you. Also the one who doesn't get a bell will be sent back to the academy as well. Begin. The second Kurenai said the word all of the genin disappeared from her view, except for Kira. She had a smile on her face that showed she knew exactly what she was doing, but it also didn't do much else, as it didn't show anything when it came to her plan. I'm going to beat you down. Kira stated. That actually caused Kurenai to sweat drop. With a sigh starting to form, Kurenai said, you know this isn't what I expected from a clan head. Kurenai would have started to create some hand signs, but before she could, Kira literally appeared in front of her with her blade drawn. The jounin's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before she jumped back, barely fast enough to dodge the sword that was seconds away from skewering her. With a frown planted firmly on her face, Kurenai thought she's too fast to be a genin. That's close to Anbu level speed. She didn't get to discuss this much more, as instead of Kira charging at her again, she backed away a bit while also sheathing her sword, despite the hand that was still on the pommel. Not waiting to see what would happen, Kurenai formed hand seals and stuck the girl in a genjutsu, even though she didn't even move. The last thing Kurenai saw of Kira before she disappeared in a puff of smoke was Kira smirking. In the trees, the 4 genin were discussing what should happen and Kiba gave a grin as he agreed right away with what to do, but Shino also reminded her that they needed to get the plan down, else they end up hurting each other. With a small nod, Kira said alright, Hinata. Let's set this up. I'll show you how to, but you're going to have to help me, as I don't have the chakra control to perform the jutsu. I can, however, feed you the chakra to perform it. Hinata gave a nod before they all went into position and Kira placed a hand on Hinata's back as a medium for the chakra transfer. Hinata went through the hand seal, slowly, via Kira instructions. After a few minutes, Kurenai came into view and Kira gave a small smile before Hinata said Kurigakur no jutsu. If Kurenai was surprised before this happened due to Kira disappearing, then she would be even more surprised that one of her genin knew the jutsu she just used, though Hinata wouldn't be able to perform the jutsu again for a long time, if ever, due to the chakra cost. Not even a minute after the incredibly thick mist appeared, Kurenai had to dodge as something flew past her at a high speed. A second later she had to do it again as another things, this one red, flew past her at an even faster speed, and it seemed that no matter what she did the mist wouldn't release, and it became obvious why, after she felt the heavy chakra in the mist. Kira was still powering the technique, despite the attacks that all four of them seemed to be sending her way. She would have pondered this more, if not for the fact that the mist slowly went away to show Kira grinning and holding all three of the bells. "How did you know that technique?" Kurenai asked Hinata, to which she looked down in embarrassment. "Kira-san showed me it. I didn't have the chakra myself, so she gave me the chakra to do it," Hinata stated with a blush, while she also poked her pointers together. "That being as it may, what are you going to do, Kira? You have all the bells. Choose which one of you goes back," Kurenai stated with a neutral look. Sighing deeply, Kira threw the 3 bells at the group and said, "I can deal with going back. It's not like I'm too worried. You 3 deserve them more." "No." Surprisingly, Hinata was the one to yell this. "You were the one who helped us out the most." "I agree with Hinata." "Why?" "Because you were the one who made the plan that helped us get the bells," Shino stated. "As much as I don't want to go back to the academy, I have to agree with the other 2. Without you, we might as well have been sent back in the first place," Kiba stated in a nervous voice. "I guess that means that if you send one of us back, you send all of us back," Kira stated with a smile. "I guess so. Well, you 4 all pass." Kurenai stated with a smile as well. "From the sounds of it, you already know what this test was about, so I don't need to explain that, though your teamwork is still lacking. I have to say well done. You 4 are now officially teammate. I want you guys to meet me here at 8 tomorrow and we can start our duties as shinobi." The 4 genin all gave a nod towards their sensei before they all went their separate ways. While normally Kira would walk with Hinata home as their compounds were side by side with each other, she didn't this time as she needed to talk to the Hokage about something. Hinata told Kira that it was fine and that she could do it, though she did tell Kira that she was going to be at the Uzumaki compound practicing her Uzukin. When Hinata was about to enter the compound, however, a Hyuga guard landed near her and said, "Hinata Hyuga. Your presence is requested by Hiashi-sama." Hinata was confused as to why her father needed her, but it became obvious when she saw her father was just finishing a meeting with the Hyuga elders. Whatever happened with the elders, about her, it wasn't good as her father had an actual scowl on her face. Normally Hyugas were stoic and emotionless in public and in front of other members of the family, but her father had an honest scowl on his face. When he saw her, she actually saw him glare slightly off in a different direction, but he did motion for her to follow him. Hinata did so without complaint and they ended up in his study. "Did you need something from me, father?" Hinata asked in a timid tone. Hiashi gave a deep sigh as he said, "Me and your mother have tried everything in our power to stop something the clan elders wanted from happening, but it seems it wasn't enough, Hinata. If you were unable to live here, where would you go?" The look on Hiashi's face was one of sadness and a hint of anger, but it obviously not towards her. Even though Hinata didn't completely understand what was going on, she said, "I would go to the Uzumaki clan compound." "Father, why did you want to know?" Hiashi gave a deep sigh as he looked away from his daughter slightly and said, "The clan elders achieved what they were hoping for, Hinata." "Father? What do you mean?" Hinata asked in a scared tone. It was unsure if Hinata was actually seeing things right, but it looked like Hiashi's had a tear coming from one of his eyes as he said, "By orders of the Hyuga clan elders. Hinata, you are hereby stripped of your title of heiress of the Hyuga clan and banished from the Hyuga clan, denied the ability to claim the Hyuga name." "The Uzumaki were feared for their seals, you say?" "Blasphemy. The Uzumaki were feared because of their abilities on the fields. We would wipe the floor with you bastards even if we weren't so good at seals." Uzumaki Kido to a Kirigeki commander during the Battle of Yuzu. 20 minutes earlier. Kira had just walked away from Hinata to go visit the Hokage, but she had no clue as to why she had a bad feeling about today. She normally didn't get these type of feelings unless someone close to her was in trouble, but as far as she knew, her mother had all but disappeared when it comes to her whereabouts. Hinata was back at the Uzumaki clan compound practicing and her friends and family were all fine. Whatever the reason was, things were not going to be good when she found out whoever hurt her friends. When she arrived at the Hokage's office, though she was still thinking about what was going on earlier. She was really distracted even because she didn't hear the old Hokage ask her a question. When she finally did hear him, she blinked a couple of times and asked, "What?" "I'm sorry, I didn't hear you." "What did you say?" "I was asking you why you needed to see me, Uzumaki-san." "I'm very busy, you must understand." Hiruzen asked. "Ah. Sorry, Hokage-sama. I was just thinking about something. As for why I am here, I have a request." Kira stated. "Oh? And what would this request be, Uzumaki-san?" Hiruzen asked with a raised eyebrow. "I was thinking of requesting that my team be sent with another genin team for their first C rank. Now before you say anything else, I'm suggesting this as a way for us to get used to being teamed up with people we are not used to in the future. Kira stated with a hopeful look that didn't get shown much. There is more to this than you're telling me, isn't there? Hiruzen asked with a solemn look. Kira sighed at being found out, as she said, they don't call you Shinobi no Kami, for nothing I guess. Yes, there is more to it, but this is in Uzumaki's secret at the moment that I don't have the authority to tell you about. What do you mean you don't have the authority to tell me? You are the clan head, are you not? Hiruzen asked with a genuine curiosity. I am Itsu. Kira stated with a childish tone, which in turn caused Hiruzen to face fault. Getting serious though, I can tell you Hokage-sama, at least not without permission from someone important to me. I'll take what you have said into consideration, Uzumaki-san, but I wish you would give me a better explanation instead of just what you have said. I suggest you go now. I need to deal with my greatest enemy, Hiruzen stated with a glare at the paperwork on his desk. Oh no, why don't you use shadow clones? Kira asked in genuine curiosity in her tone. Hiruzen stayed silent for a few seconds before he said, excuse me for a second, would you? Kira just nodded nervously as the Hokage walked out of the room. A few seconds later a loud banging sound rang through the Hokage tower, leaving Kira to sweat drop. When Hiruzen came back with some blood coming from his forehead, he gave a small smile and said, I will see you later then, Kira. Kira gave a nervous look before she bowed towards the Hokage and left, feeling very confused for once. With an incredibly deep sigh she began to walk back to the Uzumaki compound, but not before a voice in her head said, are you alright, hatchling? You seem confused at the moment. It's not that I'm confused, Isobu, it's I can't get rid of this feeling that something bad happened. If someone I care about died or is hurt, I honestly don't know what I would do at the moment. I could end up losing control of your yokai. I just don't want to hurt anyone, Kira stated back. Isobu let out a throaty chuckle that of course sounded demonic. You shouldn't worry so much, hatchling. I'm sure you're just overreacting. There is such a thing as being too paranoid, you know. Kira gave a mental deadpan stare towards the turtle while her real left brow twitched. I'm not paranoid. I'd just rather be safe than sorry. Yes. It's called being paranoid. Oh, what would you know, you giant sushi bar? She ignored the laughing that came from in her head at this point. This was honestly just a normal conversation between the two. It started off as the two being in what most would consider a nice conversation. It escalated into Isobu pointing out what Kira didn't want. To top it all off, Kira sent an insult at the turtle that just laughed. Yep, just a normal conversation between the giant three-tailed turtle and the Uzumaki. When Kira finally arrived at the clan compound, she was surprised to see Shiro in front of her house, looking angry for once. It was hard to get Shiro mad, but when you did, you better be out of his was, especially since he had the brain of a Nara and was a seal master, by normal standards not Uzumaki, by the time he was 9. That coupled with the fact that he had above average chakra for an Uzumaki and his extreme prowess in Taijutsu, he was a monster, even by Uzumaki standards, and that didn't even cover his abilities in ninjutsu and jinjutsu, even though both were substantially lower compared his other skills. When she stopped walking and was right in front of him, Kira slowly asked, do you need something, Shiro? Something's not right. Shiro almost never gets mad, Isobu stated from inside her seal. I was thinking the same thing, and I also feel I'm going to be cussing someone out tomorrow at the council meeting, Kira stated back. Hinata got banished from her clan. What did you just say? To say Kira was pissed would be the understatement of the year. Kira was so angry that she was tempted to go over to the Hyuga compound and get her Uzumaki justice against the hard asses of the Hyuga elders. She didn't know exactly what she was going to do when it came to her justice, but she knew that Anko Midarashi would love to join her. Hinata told me she was banished from her clan. She is no longer Hinata Hyuga and is just Hinata. To make matters worse, we can't officially adopt her into our clan since she is still technically a part of the Hyuga family. The only way we can would be if we had her eyes sealed, and I know for certain you won't do that to her. Shiro stated. To make matters even worse, the Hyuga elders plan to place the caged bird seal on Hinata tomorrow, with or without the permission of Hiashi-sama. Kira grit her teeth in frustration, but then something popped into her head. With a quick thoughtful look she asked Shiro, you said that Hinata was banished, but does she still carry the Hyuga name? Shiro shook his head as he said no. The clan elders of the Hyuga specifically stated that she. Why am I so stupid? You're not stupid, Shiro, you just didn't think far enough ahead. Besides, I'm better with politics than you are. Kira stated with a smile. Now, since the Hyuga elders have specifically stated that she no longer has any claim to the Hyuga name, her fate no longer is under the jurisdiction of anything the Hyuga say. As such, they cannot place the caged bird seal on Hinata without permission from the Hokage. Also, since Hinata is no longer a Hyuga, we can and will adopt her into our clan, as there is nothing stating that she belongs to any family due to no longer being able to claim the Hyuga name. Shiro gave a smile towards Kira at that, as he slowly started to get back into his natural nervous personality, even though he was still happy. Why, you're a genius with politics, Kira-san. Kira gave a soft smile and said, no, not politics, just at finding loopholes. Now do you know where Hinata is? Shiro frowned at that question as he said, she's in your house sleeping as far as I know. Kira frowned at the new information, but she didn't say anything as instead she just thanked Shiro, as well as told him good night. When she entered her house, right away she could tell that Hinata was extremely upset about what had happened tonight. There was a soft but audible crying in one of the guest rooms, with a soft voice repeatedly asking her father what she did wrong. With a sad look on her face, Kira walked into the room and slowly started to hum a lullaby to Hinata while she ran her hand through Hinata's hair just like a mother would do. Once she noticed Hinata slowly relaxing, she decides to sing the lullaby instead of just hum it. Idoma bon jiri bon jiri. Bon karasakya orindu. Bon ga heo kuria. Heo mod. Idoma kanjin kanjin. Enhito tacha yoka shu. Yoka hu yoka obi. Yoka kaiman. Hinata had fallen asleep by the end of the song, but Kira just couldn't leave Hinata's side, not after what she noticed when it came to her. She might never have the actual Uzumaki name unless Naruto did something, but Hinata had unofficially become a member of the Uzumaki clan the second the Hyuga elders decided to banish Hinata. Kira could quite vividly remember the comments that those thrice damned old men were saying when she had visited the compound. The only reason she knew what was going in afterwards is because the next day in the morning Hinata's mother had visited the clan compound. Flashback. Kira had woken up much earlier than normal this morning, but that was to be expected, seeing as how she had a visitor. The guards for the gate had said that it was a Hitomi Hyuga. When Kira raised an eyebrow at that, Shinji, one of the guards who greeted her when they were still building, told her that it was Hinata's mother. When Kira's eyes widened at that, she quickly told Shinji to let her in and show her to her house. When Hinata's mother walked in, it became exceedingly obvious who Hinata took after. While she had a noble posture to her, she was also showing that she was a kind and caring person just through her posture. That coupled with the soft look in her eyes and the gentle aura that was around the woman who looked like an adult Hinata by the way just showed that this was Hinata's mother. It actually caused Kira to smile at the Hyuga and ask, to what do I owe this surprise, Hyuga-san? Hitomi gave a soft look at Kira's gentle tone as she said, please just call me Hitomi. We both know that Uzumakis are not one for formalities. Kira gave a small smirk at that before she said, then if you would call me Kira, then I'll just call you by your name, Hitomi. Of course, Kira. Now. As for what I am here for, it's Hinata. I am afraid that the Hyuga clan elders are getting restless with the new addition of you clan, as well as the fact that you have seal masters that dwarf Jiraiya of the Sannin in skill in your ranks. Something like that could quite easily get rid of their power. In essence, you are a threat to what the old Hyuga believe their clan stands for. Kira frowned at that as she gained a thoughtful look. Eventually sighing, she said, Hitomi. I want to make a promise to you. No matter what happens, you and Hinata are always welcome in the Uzumaki compound. Hiro and Shinji usually get stuck on gate duty, but they like the job and they are easily a Takubetsu Jinin in strength. Ah. So those are the names of the nice young men who brought me here. Hitomi smiled. I will need to thank them for being so nice, as well as thank you for allowing me and my daughter Hinata here whenever we feel like we should visit. Kira gave a soft smile to Hitomi. It's fine really. You have been really nice to my best friend. After she said that, her look gained a small hardness to it, though I should let you know that I will do everything I can to get Hinata into this clan should the Hyuga elders banish her. I know it is something you don't want to think about as a mother, but it is a possibility and something tells me that if it does happen, it will not be because of your husband. Hitomi looks down sadly at that comment. She knew it was true, but she didn't know what to do. The Hyuga elders were adamant about banishing Hinata as she was apparently unfit to be the clan heiress or whatever else they would say. It honestly made the gentle woman want to commit murder to protect her daughter from that kind of pain. She would be unable to without getting arrested, but it was something that she would be willing to do if it meant protecting her daughter. She would be willing to go to hell and back if it meant Hinata could be safe and happy. Now I understand you would do anything for Hinata, but hear me out, Hitomi. Kira stated while placing a hand on the older woman's shoulder, just let whatever happens, happen, so that Hinata will still have her mother. I will still help her in any way I can, but you cannot, under any circumstances, do something to get yourself killed or arrested. Hitomi grew angry at that. Do you expect me to just let my daughter suffer? No. What I am asking is that you do nothing for her own good. The pain of not being banished from a clan is nothing like the pain of losing something close to you. I should know, Hitomi. I lost countless family members during the beginning of the Fourth War, even if I wasn't born yet, and countless more just trying to get to Konoha. Kira stated with a soft voice that still showed her conviction to what she was doing. Hitomi noticed this as well, and she slowly looked down, trying not to let tears show on her face. While she was a Hyuga, she was never one to be as stoic as the rest. Despite that, imagine her surprise when Kira had walked up to her and hugged her instead. Kira gently rubbed the older woman's back, trying to comfort her in the same way that her mother did, and it worked. Hitomi started to silently cry in frustration at the whole situation involving the clan elders. The stiff necks would be the reason that Hinata would be kicked out of her clan if it ended up coming to that, and she would be damned if she didn't think she could do something to comfort her daughter if it did happen. Flashback end. The next morning, Kira had left a note with Hinata, telling her to stay exactly where she was until she needed to meet up with their team, as well as asking her nicely to tell Kurenai that she would be in a meeting with, and quote, the stiff necks who need to get a life besides arguing over things. Oh, and the clan heads. Hinata had laughed at that note as she did what her teammate asked, and don't even think about the fact that she was no longer Hinata Hyuga and was just Hinata. Kira, on the other hand, had arrived at the meeting slightly late as she walked in and noticed that there were more Hyugas in the room than just Hiashi. It seemed that some of the clan elders were here as well, along with Hitomi, but it was obvious that the clan elders were glaring at her with a typical Hyuga stare, so people called it. She didn't bother with them and instead turned to the Hokage and bowed. "I am sorry, Hokage-sama. I needed to inform my team of the fact I would not be with them today," Kira stated with a soft tone still in the bow. "It's quite alright, Uzumaki-san. Hiruzen stated we were not discussing anything incredibly important that would be important for your clan to participate in. Mainly it was about merchants that would like to come into the village. Be that as it may, I am still sorry about coming late. What is the current discussion on, Hokage-sama?" Kira asked while looking towards Hitomi, who just nodded subtly to her. "We were discussing the prospect of merchants that would like to sell raw materials from Tetsu no Kuni," Shikaku stated with his trademark bored look. "Why would you still be discussing something like that?" Kira asked, gaining confused looks. "The Uzumaki actually have a few members living in Tetsu no Kuni, and I can tell you from experience that the iron from their mines are second to none in purity as well as quality. It would be completely idiotic to not buy materials from the samurai, especially since they have some in their ranks that could defeat a Junin of Kakashi Haddock's caliber." "Oh? And how exactly would they manage to do that?" One of the Hyuga elders sneered. "Samurai are worthless and we..." He was cut off as Kira suddenly appeared in front of him, her sword drawn, sending every color of the rainbow throughout the room. After a few seconds, she sheathed her sword and turned to her seat. "You can't hit what you can't see, now can you?" Even the eyes of a fully matured Uchiha would have trouble keeping up with a samurai of the rank of Fukudachi or more. And don't get me started on the Teish Mifune. Even Hiruzen seemed shocked at this as he slowly asked, "How do you know all this?" Kira gave a small smile as she said, "2 reasons. The first being I have been to Tetsu no Kuni and have met more than just Teish Mifune. The next being that I have been taught by one of the Teish rank samurai in the art of Iaden, which is meant for striking before the enemy can react. Might I add. In essence, Iaden was made to counteract jutsu by attacking before the shinobi could make any hand signs." The fact that Kira had not only admitted that she had been taught swordplay by samurai, but the fact that she had learned a form of kenjutsu that would be fast enough to kill before a ninja could perform hand seals made it so that she was now considered a threat on par with an S-class Ryu shinobi, even if she is not that strong. Kira, noticing the looks at her, decided to get rid of the pressure around the clan heads and force it onto the Hyuga elders. "Ah. Hiashi-san. I had heard that Hinata was having trouble. Would you be able to tell me exactly what happened? I am worried about my teammate and friend after all." Kira stated with a peaceful smile that somehow had an evil feel to it. Hiashi, not feeling the evil aura directed at him, said, "Unfortunately, against my efforts, Hinata is no longer Hinata Hyuga." Everyone around stopped suddenly at that proclamation. The exact words in the document that made it official was the Hinata is banished from the clan and is unable to call upon the name of Hyuga under any circumstances. Kira gave a glare in his direction, though again it wasn't directed at him, as she said, "You mean to tell me that Hinata is now just Hinata? She no longer has a family?" At a nod, the smile on her face returns. "Then I would like to officially adopt Hinata into the Uzumaki clan." She couldn't say anything else, as the Hyuga elders that were at the meeting snorted and said, "You are not going to. That failure is still under our authority." The second the elder said that, Kira's smile grew wicked as she looked at them. "Actually, I believe you are incorrect. Correct me if I am wrong, Hokage-sama, but by banishing alone, Hinata would still have the Hyuga name. However, since you also stated that she will never be able to lay claim to the Hyuga name, that prevents any and all Hyuga decisions from affecting her, as well as making it so that she is considered a civilian-level shinobi instead of one from a clan." The Hokage, seeing her game, kept his neutral look as he said, "That is correct, Uzumaki-san. Due to the circumstances, you can adopt Hinata, so long as the rest of the council agrees to it. Though, does this mean that you are staking a claim to adopting her into your clan? Without hesitation, much to the ire of the Hyuga elders, Kira said yes. Hinata is my best friend, teammate, and dare I say it, sister in all but blood. That last one actually surprised Hiashi and Hitomi, as well as a majority of the council. I will not stand by and let her suffer, due to ignorant fools who cannot see the incredible potential that Hinata has. The girl, by herself, has invented a taijutsu style that is a mixture of the Jiken and the Uzukai. Two very different styles, yet she did it and it works. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow at this, as he asks what is this style that she has created, if you are at least willing to tell us. Kira bowed to the best of her abilities while sitting at this point. My apologies, Hokage-sama. The only one who could say is Hinata herself, and I will not force her to tell or teach anyone it as the inventor of such a style. What Kira didn't mention was the fact that Hinata's taijutsu could not only be used by Hyugas but by non-Hyugas as well, even if they didn't have Byakugan. All it required was that the person have their chakra control to the point that they could have chakra sent through an attack. The style only instructed not to attack near vital organs. You could hit the lungs and it would do much except expel the wind they had in there, but if it hit the heart, it could accidentally open up one of the gates. Hinata had found this out on accident when she was fighting against Kira and she had hit an area where one of the gates was and it activated that one, as well as the previous ones in the cycle of openings. That was the first time that Kira had experienced the gates being released and she could honestly say that she did not want to experience that again. The only reason Kira didn't go to the hospital for that was because of Uzumaki healing seals that forced the gates closed, as well as healing her torn muscles. She still had to rest for a day, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been. Does anyone on the council have anything against Kira Uzumaki adopting Hinata into the Uzumaki clan? Hiruzen asked slowly as his eyes bore into all of the clan heads as well as the civilian council. After a few minutes and no one speaking up, Hiruzen continued. Then Kira Uzumaki, you are expected to take care of Hinata Uzumaki from now on, is that clear? Kira gave a small smile towards the Hokage, while a chibi version of herself gave the victory in her head. Kira on the outside, however, just bowed slightly again as she looked around the room. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I promised to treat her just like any other Uzumaki. Things were going her way for once it seemed. What if Naruto was leader of Uzumaki clan council bashing? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.